Hello, everyone. Tonight we're going to visit a world where you wouldn't last a day. Not because it's deadly, though. Maybe a little. But because it's so magnificently different that your modern comfort-loving soul might short-circuit before breakfast. We're heading way up into the high Andes, where the air is thin, the rules are sacred, and potatoes are practically royalty. This is the Inca Empire. No, not the place with gold and llamas on a postcard. I mean the real thing, a vast, disciplined, woven-together civilization, ruled not by currency or kings as we know them, but by divine order labor tax and extremely suspicious guinea pigs. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And hey, let me know your location and the time you're listening in the comments. I love seeing where we all fall asleep across the world. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You open your eyes and you're here. No phone, no luggage, no sunglasses, just sky. Bright, harsh, high-altitude sky. The kind that makes your eyeballs squint before your brain has even woken up. You take a breath. Big mistake. The air is thin and dry, and your lungs throw a small tantrum. Welcome to about 3,400 meters above sea level. You're in Cusco, capital of the Inca Empire, and your modern body is already filing complaints. Stone walls rise around you, carved so tightly together, there's not even room for a whisper between them. You're standing in a plaza so clean, it makes hospital floors look messy. Everything around you is purposefully placed, including the people, each of whom seems to know exactly where they're going. Unlike you, a woman in a woven tunic walks by, balancing a basket on her head like it's nothing. Her eyes flick to your clothes, your weird, futuristic blend of pajama sport casual, and you see something between pity and curiosity. Before you can ask where you are, because, let's be honest, you still don't quite believe it. A boy with a baby alpaca trots up and says something in Quechua. You smile awkwardly. He just stares. Then he does something unexpected. He tugs at your sleeve hard and gestures for you to follow. You hesitate. The boy doesn't wait, so you follow, your feet slapping against smooth, cool stones worn flat by thousands of years of footsteps. The boy leads you through alleyways and terraces, past murals painted in reds and golds, past vendors grilling corn over small fires, and past a woman who's throwing flower petals into the air with unnerving precision. Finally, you arrive at a high terrace. From here you see everything: temples, water channels, stepped fields that look like green staircases into the sky. It's both overwhelming and humbling. The boy points down, then at your face, then makes a dramatic wheezing motion with his hand. He's mimicking you, gasping for breath. Oh, cute. Before you can decide whether to laugh or cry, a shadow falls across you. You turn, and there he is, a man in a tunic that practically glows in the sunlight, embroidered with symbols you can't read but somehow respect. On his head, a golden disc crown gleaming like a second sun. This is someone important. You feel it in your kneecaps. The man doesn't speak. He simply nods once, and people begin to move. Not in chaos, but in choreography, like gears clicking into place. A girl hands you a small pouch made of alpaca wool. Inside, coca leaves. You recognize them from a travel documentary you half watched once, then fell asleep to. She makes a chewing motion. You obey. It's bitter, dry. It tastes like medicine and earth. And somehow, after a few minutes, the pounding in your skull starts to fade. You're not sure what just happened, but congratulations, you've completed your first medicinal ritual. Then, without warning, a horn sounds a deep conch shell note that vibrates through your ribs. The boy looks up sharply and grabs your hand. Mita, he says. One word. You don't know it, but you will soon. You're being called to serve. The man in gold has vanished. The girl with the pouch is already halfway down the stone stairs, and the boy is pointing at a line forming in the courtyard below. Men and women are lining up in silence, carrying tools. Picks, hoes, baskets. You are expected to join them. No questions, no instructions. Just join the flow, like a drop of water in a carved channel. So you do. Because here, not participating isn't disobedience. It's sacrilege. You reach the end of the line. A wiry man hands you a digging stick and nods toward a distant hillside covered in green terraces. Your assignment is clear. You begin the long walk. Each step reminds you how soft your life used to be. Rubber soles, flat sidewalks, escalators. The trail twists upward like a snake made of stone and sweat. People around you seem unaffected. They talk, laugh, and chew more coca leaves. You just focus on staying upright. When you finally reach the terrace, a woman shows you how to plant. She doesn't speak, but her hands are clear. Dig, drop, cover, pat, move, repeat. The soil is rich but stubborn. Every clump has a personality. You're planting what you think is a potato, though it looks more like a confused rock. Then from below, you hear music drums and flutes and voices singing in rhythm with your new job. It's not entertainment, it's motivation. A rhythm to keep you in time with the earth. Your arms ache. Your back protests. You sweat in places you didn't know had sweat glands. But the woman nods at you once before moving on. You're not fast. You're not strong. But you tried. And in the Inca Empire, trying isn't just a virtue. It's your ticket to survive. You wake up on your second day in the Inca Empire feeling like you've been hit by a particularly judgmental boulder. Your muscles have filed a formal complaint. Your back has unionized. Even your fingers hurt, and you're not entirely sure why. But there's no time for recovery. The sun hasn't fully risen, but people are already up, already working, already watching. You try to fake a stretch like, ah, yes. I too enjoy waking up at the crack of not even dawn, but no one's buying it. A young woman hands you a piece of something wrapped in leaves. Breakfast, probably. You sit on a rock and unwrap it. Inside is a small pile of potatoes and a smear of greenish paste. You poke it with a finger. It pokes back. This is okay, a root vegetable that looks like it grew angry. The green paste, lulucha, a slimy but nutritious algae from mountain ponds. It tastes like someone dared a salad to become a soup. You eat it anyway, because what else are you going to do? DoorDash. You're still chewing when a man in a striped tunic walks over. He's older, his eyes sharp, his voice gravelly. He says something in Quechua and holds out a small leather pouch. Inside, more coca leaves. You nod as if to say, of course. My morning routine includes spiritual foliage. He nods back, satisfied. Then, with no warning, he gestures for you to follow. You're not going back to the fields. Today, you're heading down into the lower village. The air thickens slightly, and the ground feels warmer. You pass a group of children who are expertly weaving baskets while giggling. One of them sees your wobbly walk and mimes your planting from yesterday. They all erupt in laughter. You bow. They applaud. It's fine. You've always wanted to be famous for poor agricultural technique. The man stops in front of a stone bench near a small shrine. He sits. You sit. You try not to look like you're about to fall apart. Then he begins to speak. Slowly, patiently, he points to the shrine, a small carved face made of stone and gold with wild eyes and an open mouth. This, he says, is a waka, a sacred place, a being, an ancestor, a protector. It's unclear which, possibly all of them at once. You listen, not because you understand, but because it feels important. He picks up a small bowl and begins to chew coca leaves slowly, then spits the juice toward the shrine. You watch. He hands you the bowl. You hesitate, and he just stares. So you chew. It's more bitter today. You spit. It lands short. He sighs. Still, you've participated. And in this world, participation is more powerful than perfection. Then he says a word that sticks, Mira. You heard it yesterday. It rolls in your mind like a river stone. He taps his chest, then points to the shrine, then to the village, and finally to the distant mountains. Everyone he's saying owes time, labor, not in exchange for money, not for promotion, for the empire, for balance, for the gods. You don't work for yourself. You work because the sun rises. And when your turn is done, someone else takes over. It's not charity. It's structure. The concept settles into your bones like morning fog. You wonder how it would feel to live in a world where contribution is expected but also respected, where there's no wage but no unemployment, where everyone has a role, even you, the awkward time traveler who still can't squat without wincing. As if sensing your philosophical spiral, the old man suddenly stands. He tosses the remaining coca leaves onto the shrine and walks off. Apparently, the lesson is over. You follow him past more murals, more terraces, more stories carved into stone. Each one you pass seems to hum with memory. You pause before one mural that shows a person holding a llama in one hand and a tool in the other. Above them, a massive sun face. You stare at it for a while. It stares back. Then you hear shouting. You spin around just in time to see two women jogging up the path. One is carrying a baby on her back. The other is carrying a bundle of firewood balanced on her head. Both look incredibly unimpressed with your standing there-ness. They speak rapidly, urgently, pointing to the hills. Something's wrong. The old man nods, turns to you, and makes the universal gesture for, come on, you're not done yet. Great. The next hour is a blur. You find yourself helping stack stones to block part of an irrigation canal that's overflowing. The water is cold fast and extremely opinionated about where it wants to go. Your feet are soaked. Your hands are numb. And the sun is finally starting to really blaze, but you keep working because no one has stopped and neither will you. When it's done, the older woman with the baby offers you a drink chicha made from fermented maize. It tastes like someone carbonated oatmeal, but it's cold and welcome. She says something that might be praise or might be sarcasm. You choose to believe it's praise. As the sun begins its descent, you walk back to the village. Every muscle in your body is now a personal enemy, but your mind is quieter. You're not thinking about emails or breakfast cereal or whether your socks match. You're just here, living inside a rhythm older than memory. chewing leaves that kept empires running, and learning that being part of something, even something strange and sacred and sticky with algae, is surprisingly comforting. You reach your small sleeping area, a wool blanket laid over packed earth beneath a thatched roof. It smells like smoke and straw and time. You lie down. Your body sighs. Your eyelids surrender. And the last thing you hear before slipping into sleep is the low murmur of someone singing outside in Quechua to the stars. You wake up before the sun again, not because anyone wakes you, though someone probably would have if you'd slept in, but because your body has joined the empire now. It's decided sunrise is the new alarm clock. Congratulations, you're sinking. Today's chill bites a little less than before. Your blanket of woven wool has become a reluctant friend. Your joints crackle like they're cooking breakfast, and you suspect you're developing something the locals might call mountain knees. You sit up and sniff the air. Smoke-sweet, corn, damp earth. Someone nearby is already cooking, not just for themselves, for everyone. It's a shared task like everything here. As you shuffle outside, a boy runs by carrying a jug twice the size of his head. A woman balances a stack of clay bowls on her shoulder like a living sculpture. You're not sure if anyone ever really rests here, or if resting is just doing a quieter job. Before you can ask what you're supposed to do today, a cheerful voice calls your name, or something approximating your name, but with more vowels. It's the man with the gold thread tunic again. Only this time, he's smiling like he has a surprise for you. You brace for the worst. He beckons you to follow. You do, and after a winding trail of carved stone steps, you arrive at a small open structure. Inside are baskets, dozens of them. But not just any baskets. These are filled with potatoes, every kind of potato. Yellow, purple, spotted, striped, knobbly, spherical, heart-shaped, terrifying. You are surrounded by the royalty of root vegetables. The man gestures for you to sit beside an older woman who is slicing one in half. She nods, offers you a knife, and points to the basket in front of you. No words. Just the silent agreement that today you're on prep duty. So you begin. Carefully, clumsily, you slice and sort. Some are for drying, some for boiling, some will be fermented and buried for a week. You don't ask why, you just copy. As the pile grows, the woman begins humming, softly. It sounds like a lullaby, and a war chant had a baby. You hum back, and she gives you a sideways glance, like not bad. Midway through your third basket, a boy with face paint and an elaborate belt walks by holding a staff. He mutters a word, Inti, and everyone nearby touches their foreheads. You follow instinctively. You don't know the ritual, but you know reverence when you see it. The sun god you remember. Inti, the reason the empire wakes, works, plants harvests, prays. He's not just a god. He's the schedule. Soon, the baskets are full, and the woman pats your shoulder once before walking off. Her touch is brief, but it leaves a warmth like you've passed a test you didn't know you were taking. You're standing again, stretching your back, when a teenage girl waves you over. She's beside a weaving loom the size of a canoe, threads stretched taut like strings on an ancient harp. Around her are balls of dyed alpaca wool, crimson, indigo, golden ochre, colors pulled from plants, insects, minerals, and magic probably. She points to a pattern she's making. Diamonds, jagged lines, sunbursts. It's not just decoration. It's code. Inca textiles aren't just pretty, they speak. A specific color might mean you're from the highlands. A pattern could show your role in the community. A tunic isn't just fashion, it's a biography. She hands you a bundle of yarn. You try not to look terrified. You mimic her movements, over under pull wrap. Slowly, very slowly, you start to understand. This isn't a craft. It's a conversation. She's telling stories with thread, and you're just trying not to tie yourself to the loom. When you finally pause, she holds up what you've woven, a small, clumsy strip of pattern that looks like a pixelated snake. She smiles anyway, not because it's good, but because you tried. And in this world, that counts. A horn sounds again, low and hollow, bouncing off the hills. You've come to recognize it now. It means movement, transition, purpose. You follow the others up the ridge. The climb is brutal, but your legs no longer scream quite as loud. Along the way, a man offers you a pouch of toasted corn kernels. You nod gratefully and chew. It tastes like survival. At the top, there's a clearing, a gathering. People of all ages sit in a circle facing the sun, eyes closed. You sit too, not sure if this is a meeting or a prayer or both. Then an elder speaks, not loudly, but clearly. Her words rise and fall like waves. The language is Quechua, but the rhythm feels universal. You don't understand the content, but the shape of the sound wraps around you like a blanket. She speaks of the sky, the stones, the ancestors, the potato spirits probably. And finally, she names the Sapa Inca, the ruler. Not just a king, but a living god. Every gesture, every field, every breath you've taken here is thanks to him. You glance up at the sky. The sun hovers golden and slow. And you realize something: there's no money here. No coins, no bills, just people, tasks, seasons, language written in knots and cloth, power expressed through farming schedules and loom patterns. You think of your life back home. The pings, the ads, the notifications pretending to be needs. And for a moment here, amid the silence and the slow heartbeat of this mountain circle, you don't miss any of it. You just breathe, thin, sweet, sacred air. You're getting better at this. Not great, but better. You wake up before the sun again, though this time, your body doesn't grumble as much. Your knees still sound like ancient doors, but you can stand without needing to negotiate with your joints. That's progress. You step outside to find the village already awake. Smoke drifts lazily from cooking fires. Children chase each other between terraces, laughing and dodging a dog that looks half wolf, half hammock. People nod as you walk past. Some smile. No one seems surprised to see you anymore. You're starting to blend in. Today, a different figure approaches, a tall man with silver woven into his tunic and an armful of scroll-like bundles wrapped in cloth. He says something with gravity, and someone nearby translates for you. You're being summoned, not punished, thankfully, just acknowledged. You follow him down a path carved into the mountainside, lined with small statues and shrines. The further you go, the quieter it gets, not in a spooky way, in a sacred way, like the rocks themselves are holding their breath. Eventually, you arrive at a courtyard that gleams with light, not gold, but polished stone set in such perfect alignment that it reflects the morning sun like a mirror. In the center stands a figure. He's not tall, not flashy, but everything about him radiates authority. His stance, his eyes, the space that naturally forms around him, like the air itself, chooses not to crowd him. This is the Sapa Inca. You freeze. You remember what they said. He's not just the king. He's the son of the sun, divine, untouchable. You instinctively lower your head. Everyone else kneels. So you do too fast enough to tweak something in your hip. The Sapa Inca walks slowly, steadily stopping just in front of you. A servant whispers something to him. He studies you for a moment, then raises a hand. You expect a command, a question, maybe judgment. Instead, he speaks a single word, Aini. You don't know what it means, but the others murmur in agreement, nodding, some even smiling. Later, someone explains, Aini is the principle of reciprocity, the beating heart of the empire. Give and receive, help and be helped, plant and harvest, labor and feast. Everything here revolves around that balance. You worked, you helped, you respected the rhythm, and now you've been acknowledged for it. The Sapa Inca steps away, and just like that, the tension breaks. A woman claps you on the back. A young boy throws a flower at your feet. You pretend that was on purpose. You're ushered to the side where a man hands you a new tunic, heavier with different symbols. Your old one marked you as lost visitor. This one says you're part of something. You wear it with pride, even if it itches. Next, you're led to a small stone building near the central plaza. Inside, it's cooler, dimmer quiet. In the middle stands something unexpected, a massive storage room. Shelves from floor to ceiling, each stacked with food tools, fabrics, medicinal herbs, and more. This is a kolka, a state warehouse, part of the Inca's incredible storage system. They didn't just collect for themselves, they stored for everyone. Droughts, floods, invasions, whatever came, the kolka would provide. Preppers would be jealous. Your guide gestures at a list not written, but knotted, a quipu, a system of strings and knots used to track inventory, labor census data. One cord might record how many llamas are in a village. Another might track who planted which field. It's math memory and administration, all in thread. He hands you a bundle and shows you how to read it. You fail miserably, but he chuckles and walks you through it. Slowly, you begin to see the logic knots in clusters spacing texture. This one means potatoes. That one means cured meat. This one probably means you've been here too long. You're handed a small parcel, your share of the storage. Not because you asked, but because you gave labor. The system remembers. As you leave the kolka, you pass a group of men debating loudly over something. One slams a stone on the ground. Another raises a carved stick. You're not sure if they're arguing or composing a play. Turns out they're part of a council elders from various elu or family groups. They're debating who gets access to a particular field. No shouting, no armies, no bribes. Just voices memory and deeply rooted traditions. You listen as long as you can before your stomach interrupts the proceedings with an undignified growl. Thankfully, a boy nearby hears it and points you toward the food preparation area. Lunch is communal, that's guinea pig roasted to crisp perfection, served with spicy aji sauce and tubers. You hesitate for half a second, then dig in. The meat is rich, earthy, and not at all like a pet store smells. You finish every bite. By late afternoon, the plaza is bustling with a different kind of energy celebration. It's not a festival, exactly, more like a public acknowledgement. People are laughing, dancing, offering each other small gifts. You're pulled into a circle and handed a pan flute. You attempt to play a note. It sounds like a llama sneezing. Everyone laughs. You laugh too. And that's the moment you realize you've survived 3 full days in the Inca Empire. Without air conditioning, without Google Translate, without soap that smells like ocean thunderstorm. And instead of longing to go back, you're content. For now. Because in this empire, where gold is sacred, not currency, where your hands are more valuable than your words, and where even the sky is part of the schedule, you're not just a visitor anymore. You're an Aini, a thread in the tapestry, a note in the flute, a small, awkward, slightly sore part of something much, much bigger. You're sent to the fields again. Not the cozy, breezy kind of fields you might imagine if you've ever imagined cozy fields, which is a strange thing to imagine, but a steep, sun-scorched terrace system carved into the side of a mountain like stairs for giants. This isn't farmland. It's architecture with altitude. The chakitakla, a digging stick with a footrest, is placed in your hand before you can even pretend to stretch. Around you, everyone's already moving. You watch a young girl plant rows of potatoes with such precision, you wonder if she's measuring them with her mind. Her grandmother, she's outpacing everyone while balancing a basket on her back and singing. You stab at the soil, which resists like a stubborn toddler. You press harder, using your foot as instructed, and the stick bites into the earth. One down. Only several thousand to go. A man next to you grins and offers a few words. You recognize one of them, Chunyo. Ah, yes. You've heard about it. Chunyo is freeze-dried potato invented centuries before refrigerators were even a twinkle in humanity's eye. It's a survival food, made by leaving potatoes out to freeze under the stars, then trampling them with bare feet during the day to squeeze out the moisture. Do you want to help make some, he asks, probably. Or maybe he's warning you not to step on any. Either way, you nod. Soon, you're in a clearing where people are spreading potatoes like a crunchy picnic. The sun is high, and the wind cuts like a blade. The potatoes just sit there, becoming smaller, wiser versions of themselves. Then comes the squishing. You are gently encouraged read, dragged into a circle and told to remove your sandals, barefoot, on icy early morning potatoes. You step gingerly. It's cold, slimy, oddly satisfying. People around you stomp rhythmically. Children squeal with laughter. One girl pretends to slide and almost takes out half the batch. You stomp along, feeling ridiculous and somehow honored. You're not just watching tradition. You're in it. When the trampling's done, the potatoes are left out again. Freeze by night, squeeze by day for several days. The result? A starchy pebble-like food that lasts forever and tastes like history. Your feet are frozen, but your spirit is weirdly warm. Later, as you sip chicha and massage your toes, someone brings you a small woven pouch filled with dried chunyo. You chew one out of politeness. It tastes like cold air and regret. But everyone's watching, so you smile. Next, you're taken higher, always higher, to a ridge overlooking a river valley. You pause to catch your breath, which has become a full-time job. Below, you see how the terraces curve with the land following the mountain like veins. The Incas didn't flatten the earth. They listened to it. A woman with wind-chapped cheeks hands you a new tool, a takala sharper than the one before. She taps a section of rocky soil. You look at her. She nods once. You begin to dig again, this time among roots and stones. It's slower, but somehow more meaningful. The soil isn't just dirt, it's memory. Layers upon layers of seasons, ceremonies, footsteps, ashes. At some point, clouds roll in. Rain. You look up. Nope, not rain. Hail. Tiny, mean-spirited ice bullets begin to fall. Everyone else pulls up their shawls and keeps working. You yelp once and try to act like it was a sneeze. Someone nearby laughs and tosses you a wool covering. You wrap yourself in it and keep digging. Eventually the storm passes and the sky opens into that vast, endless Andean blue again. The kind of sky that looks like it's seen too much and is trying not to talk about it. By late afternoon, you're called down to a gathering spot where a large fire is being lit. Not for cooking, this is something else. An elder walks to the center and places a bundle into the flames. Cornucopia leaves a feather. People close their eyes. You do too. The fire crackles. No one speaks. You peek. Everyone is still. You realize this isn't just a thank you to the gods. It's a recalibration. The empire is massive, yes. But here on this terrace, in this moment, it feels like a village of shared breath. You return to the village after sunset. Your clothes are damp. Your hands blistered. Your nose slightly sunburned. But when you lay down on your woven blanket, the ground feels softer than usual. And maybe you're starting to understand that these terraces, these zigzagging lines on the mountainside, aren't just agriculture. They're stories, told one potato at a time. You've become oddly proud of your blisters. They're like little historical merit badges, proof that you've survived terraces, hailstorms, and foot-stomping food prep. Your feet, though sore, now seem to have developed opinions. They complain less and walk with purpose. Or maybe they've just given up and accepted your new life. This morning, you're led not to the fields, but to something far shinier. Gold. Not gold coins or jewelry. Not like a pirate's dream. This is something different. Sacred. Symbolic. The kind of gold that isn't touched with bare hands, isn't traded, isn't sold. You find yourself standing before a ceremonial object, a golden mask shaped like a sun, with wide, unblinking eyes and a flat, dignified mouth. It's placed gently on a stone platform as if it breathes. Everyone around it moves slowly. No one speaks above a whisper. The air feels heavy. You're told through gestures and soft-spoken translation that this is not merely art, it's a representation of Inti, the sun god, of ancestors, of power, and more curiously, of light made solid. Your modern instincts want to admire the craftsmanship. Your soul tells you to bow your head. You do. Nearby, a young boy fans smoke from burning herbs toward the mask. The scent is sharp sweet, a little dizzying. You blink, and for a moment the gold seems to shimmer, like it's remembering something. You're offered a small golden disc. Not pure gold, more like an alloy, a token. It's placed in your palm with reverence, symbol of presence, someone murmurs. You don't fully understand, but you don't let go. Then something unexpected happens. A woman appears, wrapped in robes, dyed a deep, earthy red. On her shoulders, embroidered suns. In her hands, a cloth bundle. She approaches the altar with quiet strength, unwraps the bundle, and reveals a small, woven figure. A doll. No, a waka, a household deity. Carefully, she places it beside the mask. This is a fusion moment where personal meets divine, where a woman's private household god is introduced to the empire's highest symbol. Everyone watches. No one blinks. Then, like a passing breeze, the ritual ends. The woman picks up her bundle. The boy extinguishes the smoke, and the mask is covered with a thick, dark cloth. You exhale. You didn't realize you were holding your breath. Later, as you walk through the central plaza again, you notice how much gold appears in unexpected places, not ostentatiously, but intentionally. A thin band inlaid into a doorway, a shimmering thread in a wall carving, a dot on a woman's forehead as she sings while weaving. To the Inca, gold wasn't wealth. It was sunlight captured in metal, a divine fingerprint, currency. That was beneath it. You pass a child carrying a ceramic bowl with a golden rim. He's not showing it off. He's just using it, carefully, respectfully. You wonder what your world might look like if value were sacred, not spendable. Then you're pulled aside by a man with soot-stained hands and a tunic that smells like charcoal and ambition. He leads you to a forge, open air, ringed with stones and buzzing with heat. This is where gold is worked, not melted greedily, but shaped thoughtfully. You're shown how to flatten, etch, and mold using tools made from stone, bone, and fire. Your hands shake. The gold is soft, like warm clay, but brighter than your brain can handle. Your first attempt is awful. A lopsided sun with a weird smile. You pretend it was intentional. The man laughs and gives you a second piece. He guides your hand this time, and just like that, you leave a mark, a real one. Not in history books, not in museum halls, but in metal, in myth, in memory. As the sun begins to dip behind the mountains, casting long, honeyed shadows across the plaza, you walk back with your tiny gold symbol tucked into your new tunic. You pass a wall carved with spirals and suns. An old woman sweeping the steps smiles at you and nods, not at your tunic, not at your clumsy footsteps, but at the way you're beginning to carry yourself. You nod back. You don't speak Quechua, but at this point, it doesn't seem to matter. That night, as you sit near a fire and sip warm chicha from a gold-rimmed cup, you realize something. In a world without coins, your value isn't counted, it's witnessed. And maybe that's a better kind of wealth. You're beginning to notice something odd about your reflection. Not that there are mirrors, at least not the kind you're used to, but in pools of water-polished metal, the surfaces of ceremonial bowls, you catch glimpses of a version of yourself you don't quite recognize. You look sun-worn, grounded, slightly dirt-stained, and way more woven. And somehow it suits you. This morning, someone lays out a garment for you. Not a tunic like before, but something finer. Woven from alpaca wool, dyed in soft earth tones, with a pattern that ripples like water and echoes the curve of nearby mountains. It wraps around your shoulders with surprising dignity. You are being marked, someone tells you. You raise an eyebrow. Not as a noble, they clarify, but as someone who has stayed. The Inca Empire doesn't give titles lightly. This isn't a costume change. It's a conversation with fabric. Everything you wear here says something about who you are. Not just your status, but your purpose. You're led to a large open building, the floor swept clean, the walls lined with more textiles than you've ever seen in one place. Patterns of all shapes and meanings, each a thread-based biography. Triangles, spirals stepped, zigzag suns nested inside squares. A woman hands you a spindle and gestures toward a stool. Today, you learn to spin. Not the metaphorical kind, though. Honestly, you're already spinning with wonder, but actual wool. Fine, soft, stubborn wool that breaks if you pull too fast, and knots if you hesitate. You twist, you curse internally, this is a holy place, and eventually you create something. A limp little strand of yarn that looks like it was spun by a nervous squirrel. But the woman next to you nods. It's a beginning. Spinning here isn't busy work, it's legacy. Every thread joins a story that's already hundreds of years long. Then comes the dyeing. You're taken to an outdoor space where pots bubble over wood fires. A man scoops out thick liquid blue from indigo red, from cochineal bugs. You try not to think about that. And yellow from a flower whose name you can't pronounce, but whose scent is sharp and joyful. You lower your yarn into the red pot, watching it shift color like a secret being told. It stains your fingers and your heart a little. You don't realize how proud you are of your sad little yarn strand until they hang it next to the others to dry. It looks like a worm trying to audition for a parade, but it's your worm. And it's red. Deep, vivid, purposeful red. Afterward, you're invited to watch a kipukamayuk at work, the official record keeper of the empire. He sits cross-legged, surrounded by bundles of knotted strings, each dyed and looped with intention. He fingers them like a pianist, his face calm and distant, as if he's listening to invisible instructions. You sit quietly, fascinated. There's no paper, no pen. But here are census records, harvest data, even rumors of distant lands, all encoded in the language of tension, twist, and knot. He shows you how to read the most basic sequences. 1 large knot, 3 small. That means 4. He laughs at your puzzled face and flips the cord. New meaning. Upside down, different message. It's more than numbers. It's nuance. You suddenly understand why the Inca didn't need writing. As you know it, they wove their thoughts into fiber. As the sun sets, a messenger arrives. Not just a person, but a chasqui. One of the runners who delivers messages across the empire using nothing but memory stamina and lung power that could scare an eagle. You watch him arrive at full sprint, no sweat, no panting. He salutes, hands over a knotted cord, waits a beat, then vanishes again into the horizon. It takes a while for your brain to process what just happened. He ran, not with the message. He was the message. Someone leans in and says, "No wheels, no horses, but we are faster." You believe them. That night, sitting by the fire, wrapped in your new garment, you glance down at the red yarn drying beside you. It's not perfect, but it's proof of your presence, of your participation, of the fact that in a place where clothing is language and threads hold memory, you've added your own little sentence to the tapestry. And maybe one day, when someone finds a faded red thread in a pattern older than time, they'll smile and wonder, who wove this? You're standing in a courtyard. There's music flutes and soft drums, and someone's roasting something that smells suspiciously like guinea pig again. Children dance in a line pretending to be llamas. Then, without warning, an old woman grabs your wrist and declares very firmly that it's time for you to marry. You blink. She blinks back. No one else seems surprised. Apparently, you've become marriageable. This is news to you. You're gently but decisively ushered toward a group of people sitting beneath a thatched awning. They look curious, amused, maybe even hopeful. Several are around your age. One might be sizing you up like they're buying a goat. This is not Tinder. A man sits beside you, dressed in a finely patterned tunic marking him as some sort of facilitator, a Quechua matchmaker. He explains, through gestures, a translator, and a lot of meaningful eyebrow movement, that you're part of an ALU now, an extended kin group. Within that group, marriages are arranged, but also negotiated, based not on love at first sight, but on skills roles and balance. You might be paired with someone who knows how to weave if you farm, or someone who herds llamas if you spin yarn. It's a system designed to keep communities thriving, not hearts fluttering. The idea is practical, logical, terrifying. The translator cheerfully adds, if it doesn't work out, there are ways to dissolve it. But you're expected to try. You suddenly miss the simplicity of just stomping potatoes. A young woman with braided hair and a sly smile walks up. She offers you a bowl of maíz tostado, toasted corn, and sits down. She doesn't speak, just watches you fumble the bowl. Then she laughs, not cruelly, just entertained. Strong hands, she says in Quechua, gesturing to your blistered palms. You nod and mutter something about digging sticks. She shrugs, like that's acceptable. Others come and go. Some offer you food. Others ask what you're good at. You quickly realize this is the Inca version of speed dating, except instead of small talk, people genuinely want to know if you can build a roof. By midday, you've been politely inspected, interviewed, and fed 3 different types of root vegetables. A few elders huddle nearby, whispering and glancing your way. You feel like a llama at auction. And yet, none of it feels cruel. Just communal, honest. Love here isn't the beginning of the story. It's something that might happen later, or might not. What matters is contribution, whether you can build a life with someone. You're told that tonight a trial pairing will occur. You and a potential partner will share duties for 1 day. If it goes well, congratulations. If not, no shame, no drama, just try again. You're handed a new tunic, less formal than before, but with a symbol you haven't seen yet, 2 stylized figures holding a shared staff, symbol of partnership. You wear it with confusion and a side of panic. As evening falls, you're paired with a weaver, not the sly smile corn girl from earlier. She apparently chose someone who can fish, but a quiet, serious person who nods once when introduced and then hands you a pile of wet alpaca wool. Your task: help wring it out, by hand, over and over again. You work in silence for a while, until your arms ache and your palms smell like damp mountain. Then your partner says, you don't complain much. You almost laugh. I've been busy surviving. They smile. That's a good reason. Later, you help set up a small cooking station. You chop roots while they build the fire. You burn the first batch. They don't yell, just quietly take over and show you how to angle the stones better. The teamwork is clumsy, but there's a rhythm forming. After the food is shared and the fire burns low, you sit beside your trial partner. They ask if you're staying. You shrug. I don't know yet. They nod. That's fair. Then they offer you a slice of roasted oca. It's the best thing you've tasted in days, possibly ever. That night, as you lie beneath a thick wool blanket in a communal hut, you realize how strange your idea of romance used to be. Here it's less fireworks, more flint. Less drama, more shared digging. And maybe, just maybe, that's the kind of love that doesn't burn out. It just keeps the fire going. This morning breakfast comes with side-eye. You've officially survived your first Inca dating ritual, and you're still single, which by local standards makes you either mysterious, unlucky, or extremely particular about how someone stirs a stew. Your trial partner from yesterday offers a polite nod, but doesn't join you at the communal table. That's okay. No shame. No awkward texts. Just moving on with dignity and some slightly better root washing skills. You sit beside a man wearing a tunic with faded blue embroidery. He's older, cheerful smells, like smoke and clay. He offers you a roasted corn cake and asks if you've ever cooked cuy before. You pause. You mean the guinea pig. He nods. You try to smile without looking horrified. You've eaten it, yes, but cooking it feels like a betrayal to every pet store you've ever walked past. Still, the man seems excited. So you follow him across the village where a small open-air kitchen has been set up with clay ovens, hot stones, and a cage full of very skeptical rodents. This is dinner, he says, unbothered. And so begins your next lesson in cultural humility, preparing traditional Inca food. First up, chuño, the dried potatoes you helped stomp earlier. They're soaked, then boiled with herbs you don't recognize, but which smell like pine and lemon had a secret child. Then comes quinoa soup. You stir it with a stick as thick as your wrist, carefully avoiding the floating slices of what might be llama jerky. And finally, the main course, cuy chactado. The guinea pig is flattened, rubbed with herbs, and pressed under a hot stone. You flinch. The man chuckles. They're sacred animals, he explains. We honor them by not wasting them. It's hard to argue with that. You help turn the cuy, adjust the stones, watch the fat sizzle and smoke rise. When it's done, the skin is crisp, the meat tender. You eat slowly, thoughtfully, and you realize something. Food here isn't just nourishment. It's narrative. Every dish is a memory wrapped in flavor. After the meal, you're invited to a nearby field, not to plant or harvest, but to observe something unexpected: a festival. Children in costumes chase each other with clay flutes. Elders beat drums and chant rhythmically. In the center of the clearing stands a tall wooden figure with painted eyes and outstretched arms, half scarecrow, half spirit. This is a seasonal celebration, a harvest ritual, but also apparently a chance to dance poorly in public without judgment. You're handed a mask. It's painted red and yellow with exaggerated cheekbones and a goofy grin. You put it on and are immediately pulled into a circle of dancers who move like wind over terraces, uneven, joyful, messy. You try to keep up. You fail gloriously, but no one minds. The point isn't to impress, it's to participate. Later, breathless and dust-covered, you collapse near a group of teenagers who are trading jokes and trying to one-up each other in animal impressions. One does a remarkably accurate llama scream. You try an eagle cry and sound like a sneezing chicken. Applause anyway. As night falls, the festival shifts tone. Torches are lit. A slow drumbeat begins. People gather around a fire as a woman in a long black cloak steps forward. She begins to sing, not a song with melody, but a chant that seems to pull the stars closer. It's a story of a woman who married a mountain, of a man who turned into a hummingbird to visit his lost love in the spirit world, of a potato that refused to grow until it was sung to. The stories are strange, beautiful, untranslatable, and yet somehow perfectly clear. You listen unmoving until your legs fall asleep. You don't care. Because in this empire, storytelling isn't something you consume. It's something you remember. After the final chant, Silence settles like a blanket. People begin to drift back toward their homes. You stay behind for a moment, watching the embers fade. You think of your world of glowing screens and 10-second clips of snackable content and skippable ads. And you realize how rare it is to hear a story that isn't trying to sell you anything, just offering something instead, a thread to hold, a myth to rest inside, a whisper in the night that says, "You're not alone." You head back to your hut beneath a blanket of stars so bright it feels like the sky is watching you back. And for once, you don't need music to fall asleep. The story still echoes in your bones. You wake up with sore feet and sore cheeks from smiling, not grimacing, which is a rare upgrade in your Inca life experience so far. Today feels different. Lighter, like the whole village has exhaled after the intensity of the festival. But before you can wander too far, or consider a leisurely morning a runner appears a chasqui like the one from earlier, except this one is younger, leaner, and somehow already mid-sprint when he stops in front of you. He tosses you a bundle. You fumble it. It's sandals. Not just any sandals, travel sandals. Thicker soles, reinforced straps. You look up, and the boy grins. "You go," he says, in Quechua. And just like that, you're assigned to travel. No explanation, just motion. You grab your gear, a water pouch, some dried chuño, a few red corn cakes, and your clumsy but beloved red yarn cord. Then you set off with the chasqui, naturally, your first realization. Inca roads are wild, not in the bumpy, rural trail way. In the how did they build this, with stone tools and no wheels kind of way. You're on a stone-paved road that clings to the side of a mountain like it's too stubborn to fall off. No handrails, no warning signs. Just sky on one side, cliff on the other, and your new sandals whispering, "Don't mess this up." Your second realization, these runners are terrifying. The chasqui jogs like he's flirting with gravity, barely touching the stones, never looking down. Every few kilometers, you reach a small stone hut, a tambo, where he stops just long enough to switch bundles, drink water, and nod at the keeper. Then he's off again. You, meanwhile, are wheezing like an accordion that fell downstairs. At one point, he hands you a bundle of knotted strings. You recognize them Quipu the Empire's data delivery system. And now, you're the mail carrier. It hits you. You're running an errand for the largest empire in the Western Hemisphere. No pressure. Hours pass. Miles melt under your blistering feet. Villages flash by each one, neat, clean, vibrant. You see farmers in bright tunics shouting greetings. Children wave. At one village, someone hands you a roasted sweet potato. You cry a little bit. Mostly from gratitude. Partly from cramp. Then somewhere between exhaustion and awe you arrive at an Inca rope bridge. No, seriously, a bridge made of grass. It stretches over a canyon so deep you can't see the bottom. The bridge sways slightly in the breeze like it's humming a song only ropes know. Your chasqui partner steps onto it casually whistling. You do not. You freeze. He turns around and shrugs. Fast or slow, he says, still go. So you go. The first step is a betrayal. The bridge creaks. You grip the side ropes like they're the last thing keeping your soul tethered to your body, which technically they are. Halfway across, you try to look down. Mistake. You stare straight ahead, instead focusing on the far cliff like it's promising you a snack. Eventually, miraculously, You make it. Your legs are jelly. Your heart is somewhere near your throat. The chasqui nods in approval, like you've passed a test no one told you about. You press on. That evening, you reach a village that hugs the mountainside, like it grew there naturally. Stone houses, terraced fields, a central plaza where people are already cooking. You deliver your quipu to the head woman. She reads it with calm authority, then hands you a small pouch of dried herbs in return. This, apparently, is what you came for. You don't ask questions. You're learning that here, understanding comes second to doing. You're invited to stay the night. A warm fire, a thick alpaca blanket, and a clay cup of mate de coca. You drink it slowly while watching the sun dip behind ridgelines older than memory. Someone begins to sing. A boy joins with a flute. An elder hums the harmony. The sound floats upward into the evening air, settling on your shoulders like mist. And there, in that fading light, you realize something. The Inca Empire isn't built from conquest or stone alone. It's built from motion, runners, roads, rhythm. Chicha passed from hand to hand, messages knotted into string. Trust that the person on the other side will understand, even if they never meet. It's built from you walking across a canyon because someone handed you sandals and said go, and you did. You wake up in someone else's house. Well, technically, it's more of a communal lodge, and you've been invited to stay, so it's not trespassing. Still waking up to a chicken staring directly into your soul while perched on a woven basket full of beans is a new experience. You nod politely at the chicken. It does not nod back. Today, you're not traveling. You're staying put. In this highland village, a speck of life clinging to the edge of a green slope, hugged by mist and the low murmur of a river far below. The villagers have already begun their day. A woman stirs a bubbling pot of soup with one hand and knits with the other. A boy runs by, carrying a flute and a turnip, like both are equally urgent. A man gently shaves a chunk of obsidian, carving something you're not allowed to see yet. You stretch. The soreness has faded into something almost noble. You're sore with purpose now. Then someone hands you a broom, made from dried reeds, and gestures toward a stone patio. Time to sweep. You might have thought that the Inca Empire was all about gold and terraces and stone roads, but no, today you learn it's about cleanliness. Painfully thorough, deeply spiritual cleanliness. You start sweeping. At first it's simple. Dust twigs a very confused beetle. But soon someone else joins in. Then another. Then someone brings a jug of water and begins scrubbing the stone tiles with a mixture of ash and leaves. You follow suit. By the end of the hour, the entire plaza looks like it's ready to host a god. And in a way, it might. Because in the Inca worldview, the gods don't just live in temples. They live everywhere. In the stones, in the firewood, in the air between two people greeting each other with respect. Keeping your space clean isn't just hygiene. It's devotion. Someone nearby chants softly as they wash their hands. It's not a song. It's more like a reminder. A way of saying, I see the sacred in this. You whisper it back, even if you're not sure of the words. Later, you're invited to a hut near the edge of the village. Inside is a curandera, a healer. She's old in the way mountains are old. Her eyes are sharp, her fingers stronger than your entire self-esteem. She smiles, then frowns. Your posture is apparently unacceptable. She pushes you down by the shoulders, straightens your spine, and begins examining you. It's not invasive. It's observational. She listens to your breath, taps your knee, asks what plants you've been eating. You name 3. She frowns again. Then she smears something green on your temples and begins to hum. Not a melody, just a vibration. You feel your thoughts quiet. You feel your stomach gurgle. You feel the universe nod and say finally. When she's done, she gives you a small bundle of herbs and a look that says, use this or suffer. You will absolutely use it. Later, you wander past a group of children learning from a village elder. She's showing them how to read a quipu, not just count the knots, but interpret them. This is for crops, she says. This one tracks births. This knot. This one means someone gave more than they were asked. The children murmur, impressed. You lean in too. And then she holds up one final cord. This one, she says, slowly tells us nothing. They frown. Because some stories are not told in knots. Some are told by presence, by action, by who shows up. She looks right at you. You try not to tear up in front of 6-year-olds. That night, you help build the fire for the evening meal. You slice roots without cutting yourself. You flip a slab of roasted tuber without dropping it. Someone hands you a cup of chicha with no explanation. You drink it without asking. And as everyone gathers around the flames, sharing stories, exchanging goods, laughing in the dark, you realize you haven't thought about time all day. Not the clock kind anyway. Here, time moves in circles, in seasons, in sweeps of the broom and sways of the loom, in footsteps over a rope bridge and steam rising from a hot cup of herbal tea. You are no longer passing through. You are participating. You are in your own strange, clumsy modern way. Here. And here being here is everything. Today, you learn that taxes still exist in the Inca Empire. But they don't come in envelopes. They come in assignments. You're sweeping the last few flower petals from yesterday's ceremony off a sun-warmed path when a tall man with a serious face and an even more serious clipboard made of knotted string taps your shoulder. He gestures toward the mountainside. You sigh. You've learned what that gesture means. It's your turn for Mida the labor tax. Now, to be clear, Mida isn't a punishment. It's how the empire works. Instead of giving money, everyone gives time, strength, skill, whatever they have. In return, the empire provides roads, temples, food stores, even disaster relief. It's socialism. If socialism had llamas and more gold masks. Your assignment, rock moving. You're not building a pyramid. You're not carving anything. You're just moving rocks from one pile to another. Why, you ask? Someone shrugs. They were moved last week. That doesn't help, but you do it anyway. With a group of 10 others, you lift and haul and stack and unstack. Some rocks are the size of your head. Some are the size of your pride. A few times, you nearly drop one on your foot, but your toes have developed a sixth sense about these things. You're given breaks. Water, toasted corn. Someone makes a joke about your technique. You laugh, but you also correct your grip. By midday, your arms are noodles. Your back is a suggestion. Your legs feel like they're politely excusing themselves from your body. Then a child passes by and offers you a flower. You tuck it behind your ear. That counts as a win. Later, you and your team are directed to help repair a section of road 1 of the thousands of kilometers of carefully fitted stone paths that thread across the empire like a circulatory system. The stones are irregular, but placed with obsessive precision. Each one fits like it was born there. You spend the next hour attempting to emulate that perfection, only to realize that good enough is not an acceptable measurement here. Your supervisor nods or frowns, depending on how flat your section looks. He doesn't speak much, but when he claps you on the shoulder and hands you a chicha gourd, it feels like applause. Then something unexpected happens. A man arrives from a neighboring village. He's older, limping slightly, but still proud. He carries a message, not a quipu, not a knotted string, but a memory. He recites the needs of his town: more hands, for harvest a weaver, for festival banners a boy who wants to become a runner. The people around you begin to volunteer, not for money, not for reward, just because it's their turn. You raise your hand too. The elder nods and adds your name to the list, with string, of course. By evening, you return to the village, dusty, sore, sun-dappled, and content. You expect rest. You get dinner duty, because Mira ends when it ends. You peel roots beside a grandmother who could probably run circles around you. She hums a song you've begun to recognize, one about a bird who steals light from the sun and gives it to a potato. You're not sure if it's myth or recipe. You help stir the soup. You don't burn it. Someone high-fives you. You nearly cry. After the meal, a group gathers to tell stories, not for entertainment, but to record the day. A boy stands up and recounts your rock-moving session like it was a war story. He exaggerates wildly. You let him have it. Then, in a quiet moment, an elder explains that Mita isn't just a tax, it's memory woven into muscle. That field was planted by 30 people, that road by 15, that wall by your hands. Nothing is anonymous here. Every stone has fingerprints. Every effort leaves a mark. You lie down later that night under a heavy wool blanket, listening to the wind roll down from the mountains like a giant breathing. You close your eyes, and for the first time, you don't dream of going home. You dream of roads. You wake up thinking about breakfast, which is a good sign. It means you've fully entered the rhythm of Inca life: early rising sore muscles, mild confusion, and the persistent hope of potatoes. Today, someone brings you moat-boiled corn kernels the size of marbles dusted with salt and handed over in a banana leaf. You eat it, sitting on a low stone wall as the sun warms the rooftops, and the sound of distant drums rolls in like a sleepy heartbeat. You notice something strange. There's no marketplace, no stalls, no bargaining, no coins clinking, no loud voices arguing over avocado prices. Just people walking, people exchanging. A man carries a stack of baskets down the hill and hands 2 of them to a weaver. She doesn't pay him. She hands him a length of dyed wool in return. They nod and keep walking. Another woman trades a chicken for a bundle of dried herbs. A young boy swaps a handful of fish for a carved flute. No receipts, no arguments, just balance. You're witnessing a fully functioning empire with no money, and somehow it works. A local teacher sees you watching and invites you to walk with him. As you follow him through the village, he explains, mostly through hand gestures and a patient smile, that everything here runs on a system of redistribution. People don't buy food. They grow it. Then they give it to the state. The state stores it. And when someone needs it, it's there. It's not a favor. It's not charity. It's logistics. You pass a storehouse, a kolka, just like the ones you saw earlier. It's cool, dark, and filled to the brim. Dried potatoes, beans, corn, preserved, meats, even textiles. You ask who it belongs to. The teacher shrugs. To the people, he says. You step inside. The air smells like dust and dried herbs. A woman is counting bundles of yarn with the help of two children, carefully placing each one into a woven basket. You recognize the knots they use, quipu, of course. Outside, a man is building a wall with stones passed to him by four others in a quiet chain. No one's ordering anyone around. They just know what to do. You're given a simple job. Carry a basket of medicinal roots from the far end of the field to the storage hut. No one explains why. No one needs to. Because in this world, the question isn't, what do I get? It's what do I bring? Later, someone hands you a tunic that's too nice for digging. It's marked with symbols that mean helper and witness. You're being sent to observe the Elu system in action at a nearby village. You walk for over an hour through cloud-kissed terraces and ridges covered in wildflowers. At one point, you have to sidestep a very determined llama who's decided the path is hers now. Eventually you arrive. The village is smaller, quieter, but the system is the same. People exchange goods and labor with a smoothness that suggests generations of practice. A woman teaches her daughter to spin wool while also bartering for clay pots. A boy herds 3 guinea pigs in one hand and balances corn in the other. There's no market, just movement. Later, you sit beside a man mending fishing nets. He explains that wealth here isn't how much you have, it's how much you contribute. If your neighbor is hungry, he says you are poor. You let that settle for a while. On the way back, you pass a group of children playing a game that mimics this exact system. One pretends to harvest potatoes, another pretends to grind corn, and a third pretends to be the state, wearing a woven basket like a hat and declaring who gets what. It's adorable and unsettlingly accurate. That night, you return to your own village and sit by the fire. You share your observations with the others. They nod unsurprised. Someone offers you a handful of toasted peanuts. You accept, and instinctively, you reach for something to offer. In return, a shell, a string, a story. But the woman just waves you off. You gave your feet today, she says. And she's right. Your feet are dust-covered and tired and slightly heroic. They've walked the roads of a civilization that doesn't need coins or credit cards or crypto to function. It runs on trust, on hands, on baskets, passed quietly from person to person in the fading light of day. And you're starting to trust it back. Tonight you can't sleep, not because you're uncomfortable. Your blanket is warm, the hut is quiet, and the fire's soft glow flickers gently across the walls as if trying to sing you to sleep. No, it's not discomfort. It's anticipation. Because tomorrow, they say you'll witness something rare. You don't ask too many questions. By now, you've learned that mystery is part of the package. The Inca Empire doesn't send invitations. It just happens, and you keep up. Morning comes misty and slow. You're handed a small pouch of coca leaves and a thin strip of woven red fabric. You chew the leaves. You tie the strip around your wrist like you've seen others do. It means you're a guest of the day. Then you're guided up a narrow, winding path, flanked by stone cairns and small carved markers walk as sacred points along the trail. Each one is greeted with a touch to the forehead, a moment of silence, a breath held in honor. At the top of the trail, the view opens. Below you, terraces, villages, a river sparkling like a piece of sky that forgot where it belonged. Above you, a platform, on it, a mummy. Yes, you heard that right. She is seated, knees tucked to chest, wrapped in fine cloth, adorned with feathers and golden pins. Her face is mostly hidden, but what little you can see, dark leathery skin and tightly braided hair, feels not lifeless, but listening. This is not a display. This is a visit, a ritual carried out maybe once a season, maybe only when the stars align just right. The mummy, a noble ancestor, is brought out from her resting chamber to see the world again. People come bearing offerings, corn llama, fat flowers, even songs. A young boy kneels and whispers something. You don't hear it. You're not supposed to. You kneel too. You don't know what to offer. So you offer presents. A woman nearby explains softly that this ancestor once governed this region, that she still consulted during important decisions, that her wisdom is not gone. It's just slower now. It's not about ghosts or haunting. It's about continuity. The past isn't buried here. It's invited to dinner. Later, as the sun climbs higher, the mummy is gently lifted by people who treat her with more care than you've ever seen someone treat anything. She's returned to her resting place, not locked away, just given her privacy. You feel humbled, like you've sat in the audience of a quiet opera that only mountains and gods fully understand. Afterward, the village prepares a meal, not a feast, not loud, just a quiet shared meal. Potatoes in clay ovens, river fish wrapped in leaves, berries mashed into a sweet paste. You eat in silence beside others. Some speak softly, some don't speak at all. It's not mourning, it's respect. Someone plays a flute. A dog naps with one eye open. A grandmother braids a girl's hair with hands so gentle they seem made of wind. Then a story begins. An elder tells a tale not of war, or kings or empires, but of a single potato, a stubborn one that wouldn't grow for years until it was whispered to by a mountain. The crowd laughs. It's a small thing. But in a place like this, small is everything. Later, as twilight softens the edges of the world, you help clean the ritual site. You sweep slowly, carefully. You replace the stones you accidentally nudged. You whisper a quiet thank you to no one in particular. You don't even notice that you've started thinking in circles like they do, where memory isn't linear and time isn't forward, but woven. Back in the village, a child draws in the dirt with a stick. Little spirals, stars, suns, and lines that lead nowhere. You sit beside her. She draws a figure with funny hair. You recognize it immediately. Me, you ask. She nods, grinning. You look down at the sketch. There you are, tiny arms, big feet, and a crown made of coca leaves. You laugh. You feel seen. Because in this empire, even someone like you, clumsy foreign lost in translation, is given a place, a role, a thread in the pattern. That night, as the fire crackles low and the wind hums through the stone walls, you realize you've stopped asking when you'll go home. Because maybe you already are. The sun rises lazily over the mountains today, as if even it needs a break. You stretch beneath your wool blanket, feeling a strange mixture of soreness and gratitude. You've now lived more days in the Inca Empire than you ever thought possible without coins, without Google, without your favorite hoodie. And still, you're thriving. Kind of. Today your feet don't carry you to the fields or kitchens or ritual platforms. Instead, someone gestures for you to sit. That's it. Sit, which should be relaxing. But around here, sitting usually means something important is about to happen. Sure enough, a group of elders gathers in a circle around the central plaza. One by one, villagers approach, kneel, and speak not long speeches, just a few words. Then they hand something to the center of the circle. You realize you're watching a decision-making ceremony, not a vote, not a debate, not a power grab. This is consensus the Inca way. A dispute has arisen. Something about two families and the division of land. You expect yelling, or at least dramatic finger-pointing. Instead, it's measured, calm, thoughtful. Each speaker steps forward, presents their view, then steps back. No one interrupts. No one groans. No one storms off to form a rival faction with a slogan and matching tunics. Instead, the elders murmur among themselves. They hold a quipu cord, this one, with strands from both families, knotted with labor records. Births yield data and ceremonial ties. Yes, you heard right. This isn't just a land argument. This is a story told in string. Eventually, an elder stands and speaks. Everyone listens. She doesn't declare a winner. She proposes a solution-shared use of the field, alternating seasons, supervised by a neutral third family. No one cheers. No one groans. They nod. And that's that. You sit stunned, wondering how many modern meetings could have ended before the second PowerPoint slide if we just had more string and fewer microphones. A boy beside you pokes your arm. Your turn. You blink. For what to talk? You panic slightly. You're not in a land dispute. You didn't even step on anyone's potatoes this week. But it turns out, this isn't just about conflicts. It's also about check-ins. You're expected to say how you're doing. You shuffle forward, kneel, think, then haltingly, in your best broken Quechua, you say something like, I am tired, but I am learning. They nod. The elder smiles. You return to your seat. Later you ask someone if the decision is final. He shrugs. If the earth agrees, you laugh. He doesn't. Because here, decisions aren't just about people. They're about balance with land, with time, with ancestors. You notice this as you join a group tending a field that neither family owns anymore. It's communal now. You're planting seeds together under a sky so wide it feels like it could swallow your old life whole. There's no shouting, no fences, just rows and rhythm. Afterward, a girl teaches you how to press dirt gently around the seeds. Not too hard, she says. You want it to feel tucked in, not trapped. That sentence stays with you. That night, back in the village, a celebration begins. Not big, not loud, but present. People bring food to share. There's music from reed pipes, simple and slightly off-key in the best way. Children run with painted faces, and someone places a small table near the fire. On it, a new quipu, freshly woven, loosely knotted, waiting. You ask what it's for. For what we've just done, someone replies. A woman ties the first knot. Another adds one. Then someone gestures for you. You step forward. Your fingers hesitate over the string. Then you tie a small knot. It doesn't mean much, not to anyone else. But to you, it means I was here. And in this world, that's enough. You return to your seat. Someone hands you a clay cup. Inside, warm API, a purple corn drink spiced with cinnamon and cloves. You sip, you exhale, and you watch the fire. Tomorrow, you'll wake early, maybe sweep, maybe carry things, maybe visit another village. But for now, you sit under stars so bright they look hand-carved, surrounded by people who remember stories with their hands. And for the first time, you don't wonder how long you'll stay. You just hope that when you leave, someone remembers you're not. This morning, you're woken not by a rooster, not by a drumbeat, but by a hand gently shaking your shoulder. It belongs to a man with dust in his hair and purpose in his eyes. He doesn't say much, just points upward. You know what that means by now. You put on your best sandals, grab a pouch of coca leaves, and follow. You've walked uphill many times now, but today the incline feels steeper, the path narrower, and the silence heavier. Others join along the way. Stoneworkers, laborers, even a woman carrying a basket of firewood, as if it weighs no more than a song. You're going to a temple site, not a finished one, a new one. You reach a mountain ledge where the clouds drift low enough to graze your face. There, half-built, is a stone platform, flanked by scaffolds and sacred markers, brightly colored feathers, tied to stakes. Threads stretch between stones, like offerings caught in midair. This is a temple to the thunder god, they say, built high to meet the storms where they live. You're handed a chisel, a hammer, and a glance that says, "Don't mess this up." A master mason demonstrates tapping, gently chipping carefully. Every movement is deliberate, as if the rock might complain if handled rudely. The goal isn't speed, it's respect. You try, you fail. Your first chip is too deep. The mason winces. You bow apologetically to the rock. By midday, you've managed to carve a small groove without destroying anything. Progress. Others are stacking the stones dry fit together with no mortar, using only shape and intuition. You marvel at how precisely the blocks fit so tight not even a blade of grass can slip through. You ask how they do it. "Listen," one replies. You frown. He means it. The stones speak, not in words, but in weight, resistance, friction. The masons have learned to feel the right angle. You try it. You close your eyes. You tap lightly. You adjust. It works. A small piece clicks into place like a sigh. By late afternoon, you help hoist a ceremonial stone, waka-marked with carved spirals, representing thunder and rain. It takes 6 people, 3 ropes, 2 ladders, and 1 shouted prayer to the mountain. It stands. No applause. Just nods. It's not done, but it's begun. You sit nearby as others take a break. Someone passes around roasted beans. Someone else plays a low whistle, long, slow notes that mimic the wind itself. You look around at the crew, young and old men and women, barefoot children carrying water jugs, an elder measuring sun angles with a stick and his own shadow. This isn't construction. It's ceremony in motion. Later, someone begins to explain the layout of the temple, not just the shape, but the alignment. The doorways are angled to catch the first light of solstice sunrise. Drainage channels follow the natural slope of the hill, not fighting it, but echoing it. This place will not only shelter prayers, it is a prayer. Back down in the village that night, you soak your hands in warm water infused with herbs. Your fingers ache, but in a satisfying way. The kind of ache that says you helped build something that will outlive you. Someone asks if you carved your name into the stone. You shake your head. That's not how this works, right? They smile. Here, the stone remembers for you. You smile back. That's enough. Before bed, you walk alone to the edge of the village. The stars are ruthless tonight. So bright, so many, so loud in their silence. You sit on a rock, the same kind you chiseled earlier. You run your hand along its edge. It's cool, solid, patient. You think of your world, where buildings are tall, but often hollow, where speed is prized, but meaning slips through the cracks. And here, a single block shaped with care, placed with intention, passed hand to hand, might hold the weight of a god. You close your eyes. You imagine the temple completed, the storm rolling in, the wind catching the prayer threads, the thunder answering not with anger, but with recognition. And in that sound, you'll know you were here. You helped. You mattered. You dream of strings last night, not metaphorical ones, real strings, knotted, dyed, suspended in air, like constellations you haven't yet learned to read. When you wake, your fingers still feel like they're tying something. It turns out they will be. Today you're learning the quipu, not just how to look at it, not just how to admire it from a safe wow that's complicated distance. You're going to make one. You're led to a shaded workshop beneath a woven canopy. There's no blackboard, no chalk. Just a pile of cords, some dried dye, and a man who looks like he's been wrangling strings since birth. He doesn't start with explanations. He starts with color. You're handed a bundle of wool and several crushed insect shells. Yes, those insects. Cochineal. When you mix their powdered bodies with water and a drop of lime juice, it turns the string bright crimson. You blink. The man grins. Sunblood, someone says behind you. Over the next hour, you dye other strands yellow, from a flower, blue, from indigo green, from herbs. Each color isn't just a shade. It's a word, a category, an idea. Yellow might mean maize. Red could be people. Black, often linked to time ending's ancestors. Then comes the part that twists your brain into knots, the knots themselves. You learn that knots aren't just for counting. They carry meaning based on their placement, tightness, direction, and spacing. A single quipu cord might hold information about taxes, births, harvest yields, or even stories. You try to replicate a basic message. 3 bundles of coca leaves, 2 days of labor, 1 ceremonial dance. Your knots end up representing maybe socks, possibly thunder, definitely confusion. But your teacher smiles anyway. Your fingers don't know the language yet, he says, but they will. You keep trying. Each attempt feels like solving a riddle that's also a sentence, that's also a map. Eventually, something clicks. Not a full sentence, not even a word, but a feeling. Like you've touched something ancient and it noticed. Later, you help organize the community quipu for this week. It's stored in a clay jar, wrapped carefully, taken out only by designated record keepers. You're allowed to hold it for a moment. It's heavy, but not in weight. Heavy in memory. Each knot contains a moment someone lived, a job done, a meal shared, a child born, a wall finished, a visitor, maybe even you. You wonder how many of those knots are anonymous. You hope yours are not. In the afternoon, a ceremony begins in the plaza. It's quiet, focused, People bring forward new cords, tie them onto the communal quipu under the guidance of the elder keeper. It's part accounting, part storytelling. One woman ties a yellow cord, corn planted on West Field. A man ties a red one. 3 sons returned from travel. A child ties a green knot. Found bird's nest. No moment is too small. You watch, then step forward. Your turn. You tie a knot in a simple strand. Your hands shake a little. Stone carried, you whisper. Temple helped. No one corrects you. The elder ties it into the bundle and gives you a nod. You step back. Lighter than before. That evening, as dusk cools the plaza, and a light drizzle taps on the roofs, like soft applause, you help seal the communal quipu back into its container. It's placed gently in a niche within the council house beside a carving of the sun and a bowl of dried herbs. It rests like a book, not one to be read, one to be remembered. After dinner, you sit with others beside a small fire, talking about how the empire works, really works. Not just temples and runners and terraces, but this a living record made not with ink or stone, but with thread and trust. Someone asks if your people use quipu. You say no. They look surprised. How do you remember anything one asks? You pause. You think of phones and spreadsheets and inboxes and social media timelines and folders marked important that you never open again. You shrug. We forget, you say. They nod, not in judgment, just understanding. And then they begin to sing, not for performance, not for ritual, but just because the thread of the day is winding down. And this is how you tie it. As the melody drifts into the night, you glance at your fingers. They still ache a little, but now they remember something. A loop, a twist, a tension, a name, a place you once held, however briefly, in the fabric of a civilization. And the next time someone asks where you've been, you might just hold out a string and smile. You're walking up a hill before sunrise again. At this point, you no longer question it. You chew your coca leaves, adjust your shawl, and try not to trip over a wandering chicken. But this morning, the air feels different, thicker than mist, more electric than the quiet hum of the village waking up. You're not told where you're going. You just know you've been invited. You follow a winding path up a ridge lined with prayer flags and polished stones. At the crest, a small platform built from white granite appears ringed with colored threads tied to wooden stakes. In the center, a woman seated in absolute stillness. She's wrapped in dark layered fabric eyes, closed silver streaks in her hair. Around her are herbs, feathers carved animals, and a bowl of burning leaves, sharp and ancient smelling. Someone whispers, "Oracle." You freeze. You thought oracles were myths, stories draped in fog. But here she is, real, grounded, and possibly about to tell you things you didn't ask to know. People gather silently at the platform's edge. A boy hands you a small cloth pouch with 3 perfect green coca leaves. He motions for you to hold them flat in your palm. You step forward. The oracle opens her eyes, slowly pulling herself from another world. Her gaze lands on you, not piercing, but calm. Curious, you kneel and offer your leaves. She doesn't touch them. Instead, she studies their curl angle and shadows. Then she lifts her face to the wind, breathes deeply, and begins to chant, softly, personally. She sprinkles ash over your leaves, draws shapes in the dirt, and hums a tone that resonates like a second heartbeat. Then she speaks. Your Quechua is shaky, but you catch fragments, feet tired from long path, but heart still walking, hands uncertain, but learning. Two roads, neither wrong, one harder. She pauses, fingers, brushing the air above your head. Home is not where you return. It's what you carry back. Your eyes sting, probably the smoke. She leans forward, presses a bundle of dried herbs into your palm, nods once, then dismisses you. You step back, dazed, lightheaded, overwhelmed. The ritual continues with the next visitor. You sit nearby, watching the sky brighten, wondering what just happened. Later offered a simple breakfast, corn gruel dried, fruit eucalyptus tea. A woman sits beside you. What did she say? She asks. You repeat what you understood. She nods. She says that to many. You frown. So, everyone gets the same? No. She smiles. She says what needs to be heard. You eat slowly, feeling a shift, not change, but alignment. Afterward, you gather the prayer flags from the ridge, faded cloths, folded with care. Each one holds a wish, a promise, a story left to the wind. One catches your eye. Faded blue stitched with a figure walking between mountains, above a tiny embroidered sun. Below, a red frayed string. You don't know who made it or why, but it feels like it might have been you. You tuck it into your tunic. That afternoon, you're quiet. No one asks why. They just give space. You sit by the river, dipping your feet into cool water, looking at your reflection. It's not the same. Messier hair, darker skin, straighter posture, steadier eyes. In your hands, herbs, fabric memories. As the sun dips, the boy who gave you coca leaves joins you. You went to the oracle, he says. You nod. He pulls a small flute from his satchel and plays. Quiet, uncertain, sincere. You close your eyes, and for the first time in days, you feel still. Not because there's nothing to do, but because for now, there's nowhere else to be. The mountain is listening, and so are you. Today begins with a drum beat, not the usual steady ceremonial pulse you've grown used to. This one is playful, fast. It stumbles forward like it's had too much chicha. You peek outside your hut and immediately see why. It's festival day, not the kind with sacred chants or ritual silence. This one's loud, bright, entirely focused on joy. Someone throws a flower at you. It hits your forehead. Good omen, a girl giggles. You decide to believe her. The plaza is already full of people wearing costumes, masks, carved from gourds, tunics dyed in impossible colors, feathered headdresses that defy balance and logic. A man dances past, dressed as a bird with silver-painted arms. Another pretends to be a cornstalk. You are handed a skirt made of reeds. You don't ask questions anymore. You wrap it around your waist, add a mask that smells faintly of llama, and let yourself be swept into the crowd. The festival is part harvest ritual, part social satire, part comedy hour, and entirely chaotic. People mimic their leaders, pretend to scold the sun, act out exaggerated versions of village gossip. It's funny. It's weird. It's important, because even in an empire built on order, laughter is sacred. You're pulled into a dance circle. The rhythm is strange, 3 steps, then a stomp, then a twirl. You try to follow. You spin too early. You stomp too late. You nearly collide with someone dressed as a ceremonial potato. They cackle. Everyone claps. This isn't about getting it right. It's about being in it. Later, a troupe of children performs a short play with puppets made of sticks and straw. They reenact a myth about a fox who tries to steal the moon and ends up with a bag of glowing potatoes instead. You don't understand all the words, but you understand the laughter. Afterward, a table is set up with bowls of colored chalk. People draw on the stone floor. Sunbursts, llamas, mountains, spirals, zigzags. A boy hands you red chalk and points to an empty space. You hesitate. Then draw a shape that looks vaguely like a sandal. Everyone claps. You bow. A woman leans over, draws a spiral next to your sandal, then a feather, then a line connecting the two. Now, it's a story, she says. You smile, because that makes perfect sense. In the afternoon, the mood shifts, still joyful, but slower now. Reflective. A group gathers near a large flat stone. One by one, they step forward and tell short tales, not myths this time, but personal memories. A grandfather tells of the first time he carried a stone up the mountain. A woman shares how her daughter learned to weave by copying the pattern of a bird's feather. Then a girl, maybe 7 or 8, points at you. This one, she says, danced like a confused bird and stepped on my uncle. Laughter erupts. You bow again. Then someone says, you should tell a story. You freeze. But they wait. You step forward, heart racing, words tumbling. You talk about your first day here, the air, the coca leaves, the aching feet, the not knowing how to hold a digging stick. You talk about the rope bridge, the mummy, the rock you carried, the string you knotted. Then you say, I came here by accident. I thought I didn't belong. But now, I think maybe I was supposed to come all along. Silence. Then applause. Someone hands you a small crown made of corn husks and flowers. You wear it stunned, not because it's fancy, because it fits. As night falls, torches light the plaza. Music softens. Couples dance slowly. Children yawn mid-skip. Some villagers lie on the grass, looking at stars as if reading a book. You sit by the fire with a warm bowl of stew in your lap. Someone asks, was today fun? You nod. More than fun. It was freeing. They raise an eyebrow. You explain, I think I forgot how to play. They nod. Now you remember. Later, as embers glow and drums fade into a heartbeat's rhythm, someone hums the tune you first heard weeks ago, the one that sounded like the wind learning to sing. You hum along. Off-key. No one minds. You fall asleep that night still wearing your crown and dream of dancing potatoes. You're summoned to the road before dawn. No ceremony this time. No flute. No feathered messengers. Just a simple call from a woman with a walking stick and a pouch of dried corn. Cusco, she says, pointing eastward. Cusco. The heart of the empire. The navel of the world, as they call it. You feel a jolt in your chest. You've heard whispers for weeks. A city paved in stone, alive with gold, where the Sapa Inca himself breathes the same rarefied air as the gods. And now, you're going. You set out with a small caravan, 6 people, 4 llamas, and a single flute player who refuses to stop practicing. The road stretches ahead like a thread, spun by giants' precise patient stubbornly uphill. But it's not lonely. Along the way, you pass other travelers, runners, swapping messages, farmers delivering baskets, a girl carrying a basket of herbs twice her size. Everyone has a rhythm, a role, a reason. You're part of something massive and you feel it with every step. Hours pass, then hills, then villages tucked between stone outcrops and terraces that fall like green staircases into the clouds. At a rest point, someone offers you toasted quinoa with honey. You trade a funny story about your first attempt at dancing. They laugh so hard they nearly spill the pouch. That counts as currency here. As you near Cuzco's outskirts, the road widens. The stones underfoot are smoother, tighter. You begin to see markers, pillars with sun symbols, small fountains carved into the hillside, even a way station guarded by men in matching tunics. This is no ordinary town. This is the capital. You crest a ridge, and there it is, Cuzco. Not grand like modern cities, no towering buildings or neon lights, but profound. Houses arranged like constellations, walls fitted so precisely you can't slide a whisper between them. And in the center, a temple that gleams even in soft morning light, crowned with gold that doesn't boast it belongs. Your group is met by a local official. He recognizes a companion and bows. Then he turns to you, head tilted in curiosity. "You're the one from the mountain," he says. You nod, unsure if that's a compliment or a warning. He smiles. Then you should see where it all begins. He leads you toward the Coricancha, the temple of the sun. Its outer walls are black basalt stones, so perfectly aligned they seem magnetized. But it's inside that takes your breath away. Sunlight filters through narrow slits, falling onto golden statues, woven banners, and a central disk that glows without fire. You step closer, drawn like a moth to memory. Everything starts here, the official says. The calendar, the ceremonies, the movement of stars and crops and kings. You stare at the golden disk. It's not flashy. It's focused. It doesn't reflect. It absorbs. He gestures upward. At solstice, the first light touches this center point. From there, the Sapa Inca knows what the year demands. You nod slowly. It's not a calendar. It's a conversation with the cosmos. Later, you visit the Royal Plaza, a wide, sun-drenched space where processions are held, judgments passed, and the empire sees itself in stone and silence. You stand there long, watching, listening, learning. You see traders from jungle villages speaking softly with mountain herders. You see a boy reciting a message from memory to a noble. You see a woman handing out bread to people who are clearly not from here, and no one questions it. This isn't just the center of power. It's the center of connection. That night, you're invited to sleep in a guest house near the temple grounds. Your mat is soft. The room, quiet walls painted with faded sun spirals. You lie awake thinking how far you've come, from clumsy, gasping stranger to someone who carries water without spilling, reads knots, and spins yarn without creating nests. You didn't expect to belong here. But now, the thought of leaving feels less like escape and more like a question. What will you do with all of this? This rhythm, this memory, this thread you've woven into the great tapestry. You close your eyes. And somewhere in the center of the empire, a golden disk waits for morning. You wake in Cusco to the sound of sweeping. Not dramatic horns, not drums, just a soft rhythm, straw brushing stone. Outside, Your window, temple attendants are already clearing the courtyard. Not because it's dirty, but because cleanliness is devotion here. Every speck of dust removed is a small prayer. Every swept step, a way to thank the sun. Today, you're not working. Today, you're touring. A local guide, older than stone, somehow spry as a deer, beckons you with a crooked finger. You will see the estate, he says. You expect grandeur. Maybe golden statues, rows of guards, dramatic stairs. What you get is better. You follow a path through an orchard filled with native fruits, tiny sour berries, golden orange globes, wild mint that fills the air with brightness. The path is lined with low canals. Water trickles beside you, cool and deliberate. This, your guide says, is not the palace. He waits. You look around. It's the water. He grins. You're learning. You're led through a system of aqueducts, so precise you'd think modern engineers laid them. Water flows from sacred springs, split evenly into channels directed to crops, kitchens, and courtyards. Water must be shared like breath, he says. You nod. You've drunk from enough communal gourds to understand. Then he takes you to the royal garden. At first, it looks like a normal plot. Carefully kept, yes, but ordinary. Then the light shifts, and you see it rows of plants sculpted in gold and silver. Tiny maize stalks carve potato leaves, frozen flowers made of light. Each plant perfectly rendered. A garden, not just for growth, but for memory. These, he says, are the plants from every province. A garden of the entire empire, so the Sapa Inca can see what is his. You step slowly between them, amazed not by the wealth, but the intimacy. This isn't about display. It's about careful seeing. Next, the guide leads you through chambers built into the hillside. Stone walls carved so precisely, the corners hum with stillness. This was the emperor's retreat, he says, where he speaks only with the mountain. You enter a room with no furniture, just a large window carved to frame the rising sun. No gold, no guards, just light. And for a moment, it feels like a whisper from the mountain itself. Later, you're taken to a courtyard where artisans work under shaded canopies. They're weaving textiles finer than any you've seen, thinner than hair, dyed in dozens of shades, patterned with suns, rivers, condors, spirals. These, your guide says, are for offerings. You ask to who he smiles. To the empire, to the gods, to memory. One woman lets you hold a square of finished cloth. It feels impossibly light. You look closely. The pattern isn't just decorative, it's information, a message, a map, a story told by hand. You hand it back with both palms. She nods once. Later, you eat in a shaded grove with palace attendants. The food is simple: grilled fish, sweet potatoes, beans wrapped in leaves. But the presentation is ceremonial. Each dish arranged to echo a landscape mountain river sun. You chew slowly. You don't speak. You don't need to. In the afternoon, you explore freely. No guide, just sandals and curiosity. You find carved stones tucked into corners, markers of solstice equinox, places where shadows tell time more honestly than clocks. You see a courtyard where llamas are led in circles, not for sacrifice today, but for counting, census-taking Inca style. And you stumble into a small chamber where a boy is learning to read quipu from an elder. You sit beside him. The boy shows you a new knot. You show him one of yours. He nods. You don't share a language. You share a system. That evening, as you stand on a high terrace overlooking Cusco, someone asks, "Is it what you expected?" You think for a long time. No, you say. It's more alive. The city breathes, not just through people, but through stone, through water, through memory held in gold gardens and thread and shadows on rock. This isn't just the center of an empire, it's the heartbeat. And somehow, you're part of it now. You're told to be quiet today, not hushed silent. There's a ritual at dawn, and words it seems get in the way. You rise in darkness, led by soft torchlight up a gentle slope to the Inti Concha, a sun terrace carved into the mountain's shoulder. From this perch, the sky feels near enough to touch, and the breath of the city below rises in slow curls, like the Inca Empire itself is meditating. Everyone stands in a circle, old young farmers, priests, and a boy still wiping sleep from his eyes. No one speaks. They don't need to. You feel the moment tighten around you like the final breath before music begins. And then light, the first sunbeam of the day, arcs over the peak. It strikes a mirror disc, mounted on a polished stone pedestal, bouncing with deliberate grace through a carved window and landing directly on a gold panel inside the Temple of the Sun. A perfect alignment, a sacred connection, a conversation between the earth and its oldest partner. The people do not cheer. They breathe inward, reverently, like this is what breath was invented for. This is the solar ritual, the annual confirmation that the world is still listening. You are still aligned. The light shifts again, traveling down a shallow channel lined with river stones, illuminating carved symbols in the ground. Llamas maze jagged mountain stars. Each symbol is touched in turn, as if the sun is ticking off its checklist. When it touches the center stone, everyone lowers to one knee, even you. Not because someone tells you to, because you understand now. Later, the high priest steps forward. Not to give a speech, but to offer chicha, poured slowly into the ground, feeding the earth the way the sun feeds the sky. Someone offers you a small clay cup. You do the same. The liquid soaks into the dirt without hesitation. You feel something loosen in your chest. Afterward, people return to their homes quietly. There's no feast, no fire dance. This isn't about celebration. It's about calibration, about checking the rhythm of the world, making sure your steps still fall in time with the great drumbeat of the cosmos. You spend the rest of the day wandering the edges of the city. It's quieter than usual. Children play softly. Traders speak in murmurs. Even the llamas seem contemplative. You find yourself returning to the temple, drawn back not by curiosity, but by stillness. A young girl is sweeping flower petals from the stone. You help her. She offers you one of the petals, bright yellow warm from the light, and places it behind your ear. Now you're golden, she says. You smile, but you also feel it. Not the petal, the weight of being here, of being part of a place where the sun is not a concept or a ball of fire or a weather report, but a presence, a being you eat with, sleep beneath. Ask for permission before planting. You watch a group of weavers add a new band to a tapestry, bright thread, the color of sunlight, sewn in between two darker layers. Sunlight in the shadow, one of them says. So we remember both. You nod, because that's the Inca way. Everything exists in pairs, day and night, mountain and river, death and return, shadow and shine. That evening, you return to your hut and sit in the doorway. The sun has left, but the warmth lingers. You stare at your hands, still calloused, still scratched, still holding so much more than they used to. Tomorrow maybe you'll carry water, or help herd llamas, or spin more yarn that only makes sense when viewed from far away. But tonight, you do nothing. You just sit. Because some days in this empire are not for action. They're for alignment. And tonight, you are aligned. It starts with a whisper, a quiet invitation, a handful of villagers walking slowly, almost reverently, toward a path that coils like a serpent up the mountain. Someone hands you a bundle of leaves, a strip of red cloth, and a water gourd. Then a single word, Apu. You've heard that word before, always spoken with softness, sometimes with awe. The spirit of the mountain. Today, you're going to visit one. You walk in silence, the group moving in loose formation. No one leads. The path itself seems to guide you, its stones worn smooth by generations of feet. The climb is long. You pass through forests, where the trees lean close as if trying to hear your thoughts. You cross streams so clear they seem like cuts in the earth. At one point, you pause beneath a giant rock shaped eerily like a face. No one says it, but you know, it's watching. The air grows thinner. The temperature dips, but no one complains. Because this isn't a hike. It's a pilgrimage. At last you arrive. A mountain shrine nestled in a hollow between cliffs, marked by stone stacks, feathers, bones, and offerings half swallowed by moss. There's no temple, just presence. You feel it before you understand it. A pressure in your chest. Not heavy, but aware. Like someone large and old is listening very, very closely. You kneel with the others. No speech. No ritual dance. Just quiet. Someone begins to hum, not a melody, more like the echo of a memory. Others join low and low and lower until the mountain seems to hum back. You're handed 3 coca leaves. You've done this before. You hold them flat. You blow across them once. Then you place them gently on a flat stone along with dozens of others. The wind picks up, not wild, just curious. A woman beside you ties a red string around her wrist and then one around yours. A silent gesture. We are connected. Not just people. People and place. You sit there for what feels like hours or minutes. Time has melted into stone. And then someone stands. The moment has passed. The mountain has listened, or answered, or simply accepted. You don't know. You don't need to. On the way back down, people speak in low voices. Not hushed, just gentle. A boy points to a distant ridge and says, "That's where the sun sleeps." You nod, because honestly it makes sense. Later that evening, you sit with a small group around a fire. You share dried fruit and roasted oca. Someone plays a flute, but only short notes, more like punctuation than melody. Then the eldest among you tells a story, not a loud tale, not a funny one, a quiet one, about a woman who fell in love with a mountain. Every day, she brought it gifts, flowers, songs, tiny cups of water. People thought she was odd, but each season, her crops thrived, her animals stayed healthy, and her dreams were peaceful. One year, there was drought. Everyone suffered, except her. The mountain gave her a spring. When she died, they say her body became part of the ridge. And if you listen during certain winds, you can still hear her singing. No one claps when the story ends. You all just sit, watching the fire settle into embers. Someone leans over and asks you quietly, "Does your home have apews?" You think for a while. "We have mountains," you say, "but we don't always listen to them." He nods. Then maybe they're still waiting. That night, you lie beneath the stars. No roof, no blanket, just you and the cold breath of the highlands. You're not afraid. Because once you've been seen by a mountain, the sky stops feeling so big. You fall asleep, holding your wrist, the red string still tied the hum of stone, still somewhere deep in your bones. And in your dream, the mountain finally speaks. It doesn't use words. It just remembers you. You wake to a smell you've never quite placed before. Sharp, mineral, with a hint of firewood and something green ash and eucalyptus maybe. You blink against the dawn light and realize you're not in your hut. You're in a sweat lodge. Someone led you here before sunrise, wrapped in a wool shawl, and you followed without asking why. That's become your way now. You walk where the rhythm takes you. This place is small, circular, built from stone and earth. The walls are low, the ceiling curved like a womb. There's a pit in the center filled with steaming rocks. The heat curls around you, slowly, not punishing, but purifying. You're told the lodge is called Toko, and today it's meant to cleanse not just the body, but the spirit. You sit in a circle with a few others, a woman whose hands are stained with dye, an old runner with knees like folded maps, a child no older than 6. No one speaks. A man enters quietly carrying more heated stones. He adds them to the pit, murmurs a few Quechua words under his breath, then sprinkles water and herbs onto the pile. Steam bursts upward. You close your eyes. You breathe. And for the next hour, you're undone. Not in pain, though the heat is intense, but in memory. Every blister you've earned, every knot you've tied, every time you stumbled trying to understand this place, it rises, burns, and leaves. You sweat out misunderstanding. You sweat out your modern mind. And when you leave blinking and soaked and half reborn, the air outside feels like forgiveness. Someone hands you water, cold, sweetened with crushed berries. You drink it in one long pull. Then you're led, not told, led to a quiet room near the back of the village. Inside is a small altar, feathers, seeds, bones, a folded cloth, embroidered with a jaguar, and a mirror made of obsidian. You kneel. You look in. You see your reflection. But it's not the you that arrived weeks ago, wide-eyed, nervous, sunscreen smelling. This person has sunburn on one ear. Their hair is wilder. Their hands are rough. And in their eyes, something steady. You don't know how long you stare. But eventually, someone places a hand on your shoulder. You're ready, they say. Ready for what you ask. They just smile and hand you a bundle. Inside is a white tunic, newly woven. The patterns are subtle sun spirals, tiny step shapes, a single red thread woven near the hem. This is not a gift. This is a mark of participation, of presence, of becoming something other than a visitor. You wear it with both pride and caution, because here, clothing is language. And now you're saying something permanent. The rest of the day passes quietly. Not lazily, there's always something to do, but with a kind of respectful slowness. You help patch a wall with mud and straw. You sit beside a boy, spinning thread for the first time. You taste a stew made from roots you helped harvest weeks ago. And all the while, people glance at your tunic, not to admire, to acknowledge. You've crossed a threshold. You're not from here, but you're not from here either. That night, a small group gathers to celebrate the new cycle of the moon. It's not a loud celebration, just a meal, a few songs, and stories told by firelight. You're invited to speak. You hesitate, but then you tell them the story of the first time you crossed the rope bridge, the trembling legs, the swaying planks, the moment you realized fear was just respect that hadn't been named yet. They laugh. They nod. You pass around a bowl of roasted corn. Someone ties a second red string around your wrist, double knotted. You don't ask what it means. You know now. Not everything needs explaining. As the fire crackles and shadows sway along the stone walls, you lean back and look at the moon, not to ask for anything, just to witness it. The same way it's been witnessing you. You've been carried. You've contributed. You've been cleansed. And as your second red string flutters slightly in the mountain breeze, you realize you're no longer walking beside the story. You're inside it. It's planting season again. But this time, you're not the new one. You're the one showing others how to fold the soil just so, how to push the seed into its bed, like tucking in a sleepy child. How to whisper, not shout thanks to the earth when the job is done. The boy beside you tries to mash the dirt with his heel. You nudge him gently. Use your palm, you say, like you're pressing a secret into the ground. He grins. Does it right this time. It hits you right there, between the ribs, that you have a rhythm now. Not just walking and eating and weaving. A rhythm of belonging. You look around and realize this isn't your first harvest anymore. You know where the best roots grow, how to avoid the cranky llama, how many days it takes for your hands to stop blistering. You even have a nickname. Someone calls across the field, Okari. You turn automatically. It means one who learns fast. You like it more than your real name. After the work, you sit on the edge of a terrace and drink chicha straight from the gourd without flinching. The old woman who used to glare at you now offers you a second cup. Respect tastes a little sour, but it goes down smooth. In the afternoon, you help organize storage pits, deep circular holes lined with woven mats and insulated with ash. Potatoes, maize, and beans are layered with such precision, it feels more like architecture than agriculture. One of the elders lets you arrange a layer by yourself. You feel like you're stacking time. Later, you watch as a new group of travelers arrives faces wide, with wonder limbs stiff from the climb, eyes full of the same questions you once carried. You smile, not because they're lost, but because you know how good it feels to be found. You're asked to help them settle in. You guide them to the water source, show them how to press herbs onto bug bites, teach them the difference between ceremonial silence and someone simply ignoring you. That night, one of them asks, "How long have you been here?" You pause, because honestly, you don't know anymore. Time has braided itself into seasons, into thread, into footpaths, and firewood. You answer simply long enough to forget what I thought I needed. And that feels true. You fall asleep to familiar sounds now. The owl that always calls twice. The flute practice that never improves. The sigh of the wind threading through the thatched roofs like a lullaby. But something shifts in the morning. A messenger arrives. Not the kind with grand declarations, just a dusty man with good calves and a pouch of notes and string. He hands one to the head of the village. They read it, nod slowly, then call your name. You freeze. It's not fear, it's the quiet tug of change. They tell you the empire is calling for observers. People who have lived across many provinces, who can see from multiple angles, who can remember with both heart and hand. They want you to go, to travel again, to speak of what you've learned, to listen elsewhere, to knot stories into quipu that will be sent to the center. You ask, am I ready? The head of the village says, only those who wonder that are. So you sit that evening and pack your bundle, not with things, but with gestures. The wave of the baker, the way your friend rubs his nose when nervous, the smell of the high fields at dusk. You fold your tunic carefully, not to preserve it, to remind yourself you were once a stranger. And now you are a knot in the empire's memory, a thread, and tomorrow you'll carry it onward. You leave before dawn, not with fanfare, no ceremony, just a soft goodbye whispered into your hair by the baker's daughter, and a pouch of toasted maize pressed into your palm. The path down the mountain feels different now, not easier, just known. Like walking through an old dream you didn't know you remembered. You travel with two others, both chosen like you, both quiet. One is from the jungle, feet calloused like bark. The other is from the coast, skin bronzed, hair salted. You don't speak much, but you don't need to. You share the same purpose now. You're observers, not spies, not scholars. Something stranger. You carry threads, literal ones, bundles of quipu carefully knotted in patterns only trained minds can read, but also metaphorical ones, memories of how people live, what they eat, how they dance, what they fear. At each village, you stay a few nights, long enough to learn the rhythm, the names of the dogs, which grandmother always tells the truth, and which one never does. You're not there to judge. You're there to remember. You watch how mountain people sing to their llamas before long walks, how coastal children build tiny boats to send wishes to the sea, how jungle elders whisper to the leaves before harvesting bark. Each place adds a thread to your memory, and each night by firelight you knot, not just numbers, stories. A man who makes sandals from fish skin, a girl who weaves dream patterns into her blankets, a family who names each of their corn plants individually and sings to them at sunset. You don't write them down, you tie them, and the string remembers. In one village, a storm hits hard. You shelter inside a storage hut with a dozen strangers packed tight against the wind. Someone starts a song. It spreads like heat, each person adding a verse, a clapping rhythm, a humming undercurrent. You don't know the words, but your heart keeps time. You knot that moment the next day. 3 loops, one long twist, a cluster of tiny irregular beads at the end. Joy during thunder. In another village, you help bury a llama. She was old, beloved. They dig a small grave and place her favorite blanket over her body. No tears, just quiet thanks. You help plant flowers afterward. That night, your quipu carries a knot for loss, but also one for honor. Weeks pass. You stop counting, because the rhythm of the empire is no longer a line. It's a spiral. Everything connects. One day, you reach a high valley where people speak a dialect you barely understand. You smile more than you talk. You dance when they dance. You listen to the sound of their music and think this is what the earth sounds like when it remembers itself. A boy hands you a carving. It's a condor wings wide made of bone. For your pouch, he says. You don't ask why. You just say thank you. In the next village, someone asks if you are lost. You say no. I'm looking. They nod. Same thing they say. Eventually, The road brings you to a gathering point, a tambo, where dozens of messengers and observers like you meet under a thatched hall. There are piles of quipu stacked like coiled serpents. You add yours. No one unknots them yet. That comes later. For now, it's enough that they exist. You sit around a fire that night with others who've walked far. You share chicha dried meat and stories without endings. Because endings aren't the point. You look at your hands, calloused again, but steadier. You haven't just learned how to tie knots. You've learned how to hold stories without breaking them. Tomorrow, you'll travel to Cusco to deliver the threads. Not as a stranger, not even as a visitor, as a witness. And in a land built on memory, that might just be the highest role of all. Cusco greets you like a slow drumbeat. Not loud, not flashy, but deep felt more than heard. You arrive with your pouch of knotted memory, sun-browned, wind-bent, and quietly proud. The other observers step beside you like threads being woven into a single tapestry. At the city's edge, a pair of officials greet your group. No words, just a nod, a gesture, and a motion toward a long, low hall built of smooth stone. The walls hum slightly, like they remember every footstep they've ever echoed. This is the House of Record. You've heard of it, where quipu are kept sorted, re-interpreted, re-knotted, re-remembered. You enter with your pouch held close. Inside the space is dim, cool, sacred. Racks of hanging quipu line the walls, hundreds of threads gently swaying in the breeze from unseen windows. It feels like walking through a forest of stories. An elder steps forward. He's small, serious, his fingers stained with indigo and age. He doesn't ask who you are. He asks, "Do your knots speak clearly?" You nod once. He extends both hands. You pass your pouch, and it's no longer yours. It belongs to the Empire now. You're led to a wide bench and offered water, not to drink, to wash your hands, to cleanse the journey off before stepping into the next role. Because now you will help interpret. Not all observers do this, but some are asked to stay. To spend days, weeks unraveling knots tied not just in thread, but in memory. You're honored. Also, a little terrified. Your first assignment is simple. Translate a quipu from the coast. You sit across from another interpreter and begin slowly. One knot at a time. You feel the rhythm. You see the story. Not just numbers, moments. Fish counts during a red tide. A grandmother's birth date. A tribute shipment delayed by flooding. A wedding that lasted 3 days instead of the approved 2. It's all in there. And your hands begin to listen. Later, you assist with a re-knotting an old quipu worn through in places needing to be remade for the archives. You use fresh thread, but match each knot with reverence. You're not copying. You're remembering forward. Days pass. Cusco feels less like a capital, more like a mind. Every wall thinks. Every stone listens. You begin to know the rhythms of this place, the triple bell that calls for silence, the footfall patterns of temple guards, the way sunlight shifts through the slats at precisely the same angle each morning. One afternoon, you're handed a rare task. A quipu from a village you remember. You tied this one. Now you will translate yourself. It's a strange feeling. You see your choices, the loops you tightened, the spacing you adjusted, the little flourish you added to the knot that meant storm passed safely. And now someone else will read this, will trust it, will believe it happened, and you realize your memory is now evidence. You sit with that, not with pride, not with fear, just with awareness. At dusk, you walk to the edge of the city and sit among the terraces, watching the mountains shift from gold to charcoal. A young messenger sits beside you. He asks, "Are you a knower?" Now you smile. "I think I'm a rememberer." He nods. Same thing eventually. The two of you sit there in easy silence, watching the stars bloom above the valley. Later that night, in your sleep, you dream of threads, not tangled, not cut, just braided. And in the center of the braid, a single knot pulsing softly with light. Your knot, still holding, still speaking, still here. You're invited to the temple of the sun, not as a visitor, not as a servant, not even as an observer, as a witness. Few people outside the priesthood ever step inside. But today, the high priests are gathering to retell the empire. That's what they call it. Not ruling, not deciding, not recording, but retelling. Because the Inca Empire is not just built on stone and maize. It's built on memory. And someone like you who has walked, listened, nodded, and remembered. Well, your thread is part of the weave now. You walk slowly through the city. People move aside, not because you wear fine clothes or carry authority, but because your presence is quietly known. You enter the golden doorway. Not literally golden, it's polished stone, lined with inlaid discs, so smooth and bright they shimmer. The light from the central courtyard bounces off each one like a sunbeam stepping stone. Inside, everything is dim and warm. The scent of burnt herbs and cold stone fills the space. You're led down a curved passage into a chamber where the sun never touches, because memory needs darkness too. In the center, a platform. On it, the master quipu. It hangs like a tree, hundreds of threads branching down each one, a year, a province, a voice. Around it, seated in a circle, are the amautas, the wise ones. Gray braided hair, eyes like cave lanterns, fingers that move as if they're always in the middle of tying something unseen. You take your seat. No one introduces you. No one needs to. You are already part of the fabric. One elder begins. "This thread is frayed. Tell us why." A younger interpreter responds, eyes lowered. "Too much drought. Not enough laborers. The festival was skipped. Spirits went unthanked." Nods. Another voice. "Add a knot for imbalance. Right below the maize count." Someone else speaks. "Add another same color." A new spring was found afterward. You watch the editing of the empire, not lies, not rewriting, just adjusting, updating, acknowledging what was overlooked, honoring what was missed. Then it's your turn. An elder lifts one of your knots. "This story," they ask, turning it gently. You inhale. "A boy," you begin, "whose grandmother sang to the seeds, who was laughed at for it. But when the storm came, their field stayed standing. His song was remembered. I tied it here." The room falls still. Then the elder says, "Add one more knot, please, for honor, for memory passed through breath." You do. Your hands are steady, not because you aren't nervous, but because this matters, and your fingers know what to do. The meeting lasts hours, but it doesn't feel long. Time dissolves when everything is woven into now. When it ends, the elders leave in silence. You stay behind, staring at the master quipu. One thread catches your eye. Dark blue, tight spiral. A knot you didn't tie, but one you recognize. You trace it with your finger. It's from a village far away. One you visited. One where a woman gave you water from a cracked gourd and told you everything tastes sweeter when shared. The knot says exactly that you smile, because you weren't the only one who remembered. Later, as you walk back through the city, you notice the murals on the walls. You've passed them a dozen times, but now you see them differently. Not just art, narratives, stone quipu. Each face, each gesture, each color, a knot in visual form. You sit at a quiet plaza and watch children play a game that mimics messengers passing imaginary notes tied with grass. You wonder if they know how real they're being. That night, you return to your hut, a guest room near the interpreter's house, small but warm. There you begin knotting a new quipu. This one isn't for the archives. It's for you. You tie your arrival, your confusion, your first blister, your first shared meal, the red string on your wrist, the mountain's breath, the sweat lodge, the boy, and the carved condor. Not as a report, as a memory map. Because even though you've given so many of your stories to the Empire, some you keep close. Some you carry like a heartbeat. Some, you know, you'll retell, not for accuracy, but for meaning. And those are the ones you knot tonight. Alone, but never lonely. You wake to the sound of drums. Not war drums. Not celebration either. Procession drums. Measured slow like footsteps carved into sound. Today is Inti Raymi, the festival of the sun. You dress carefully. Your tunic is freshly cleaned, the red thread near the hem a little more vivid than before. You tuck your memory quipu into a pouch, not to bring with you, just to know it's near. In the main square, people gather like streams, meeting at a lake. Each region wears its own colors, fabrics, feathers. It's a parade of memory walking on 2 feet. You see people you recognize. A girl from the jungle who once taught you how to braid river reeds. A man from the desert who told stories with pebbles. Even the cranky llama is here, looking exactly as unimpressed as ever. Everyone faces the same direction, toward the golden disk of Inti. It rests at the top of the temple, catching the sun's first rays and flinging them outward like a blessing. When the light strikes it directly, the crowd gasps every single time. You find yourself whispering thanks, not for the sun, for being here to see this. The emperor appears not as a god, not as a ruler in a parade, but as a son of light, cloaked in flame-colored robes, bare feet, crown of sun rays. He speaks little. Instead, he listens to chants, to songs, to the sound of the people remembering him back into being. And then come the offerings, not gold, not jewels, memory. Each region steps forward and presents a quipu tied in the past year. Some are long and complex. Others are small, like a whisper tied with care. All are accepted, because all are true. You step forward with your group of observers. Your pouch contains dozens of threads, none of them yours anymore, yet all of them you. You place the pouch at the base of the disc and step back. No one claps. This isn't for show. This is for balance. The sun feeds the people feed the memory, and the memory keeps the sun turning. Later there's dancing, not the kind with practiced steps or strict rhythm. The kind where feet move because hearts remember how. You join. Your body sways without thinking. Someone loops a yellow thread around your wrist. A third one. No words. Just a nod. You eat roasted maize and drink cold chicha that tastes of clay and moonlight. You sit on warm stone steps and watch children reenact the harvest, laughing too hard and forgetting their lines. No one corrects them. Mistakes are memory being playful. As the sun dips below the hills, the golden disk no longer glows. But no one panics. They've seen the cycle before. They trust the return. You walk back through the streets, glowing with torchlight and fire embers and the smell of roasted roots. Someone sings. Someone snores. Someone weaves a story with their hands and three small knots in the dirt. And then stillness, not silence, stillness. The kind that says something sacred has ended but not disappeared. You reach your doorway and pause. Above you, stars bloom like forgotten seeds, remembering how to shine. You press one hand to your chest, right over the knots you carry inside. You've walked the empire. You've knotted its stories. You've whispered into the ear of mountains and listened to the breath of stone. And now you rest, because memory too needs sleep. You wake before the sun, not from noise, not from light, from knowing. Today is your last day in Cusco. Not forever, but for now. You rise, fold your tunic, and tie your hair back with a strip of woven grass, a gift from the boy who carved the bone condor. You sling your pouch across your shoulder lighter now, not empty, just complete. Outside, the city still sleeps. Only the wind moves, curling through stone alleys like a cat searching for its morning. You walk up the terrace path one last time. It's steeper than you remember. Or maybe your steps are heavier, not with sorrow, just meaning. At the top, you sit. Below, the city glows faintly in the blue hour. You can see the temple roofs, the threaders' houses, the long stone roads pointing to places you've been and places you never reached. You think of the first time you saw this view, how foreign it felt. Now it's familiar, but not small, never small. You reach into your pouch and pull out one final cord. It's simple, pale thread, one knot at the center, no flourishes, no colored beads, just a mark of presence. You tie it to a small root near the edge of the hill, not hidden, but not obvious either. A quiet note in the empire's song. Then, without ceremony, you turn and begin your descent. You pass familiar faces. Some wave, some nod, some just meet your gaze with that subtle expression that says, I saw you become something here. At the edge of the city, you meet a traveler headed north. They look nervous. They ask you, is it worth it? You say, it's never what you expect. They frown, but then you add, it's better. And that seems to help. You part ways. The road stretches ahead, braided with dust and possibility. As you walk, you think of every knot you tied, every thread that holds someone else's voice, every moment you didn't understand until long after it passed. You're not the same person who arrived with questions and sunscreen and sore legs. You are a witness now, a carrier of memory, a rememberer of the unspoken. You don't know where the road leads next, but you carry with you the hum of terraces, the hush of stone temples, the smell of sun on woven wool, the shape of stories that refuse to be forgotten. You walk slower now, not because you're tired, because you see more. And as the morning opens fully, the light spreading like spilled chicha across the land, you reach the bend in the road where the city disappears from view. You pause, turn once, and whisper softly but clearly, Thank you. Then you walk on. You thought your journey was complete, but memory has a way of tugging you back. Weeks after you leave Cusco, you find yourself in a quiet valley where the rivers sound like whispers and the trees lean in like they're listening. You are only passing through, but the villagers invite you to stay the night, and then another night and another, until you stop calling it passing through. They're potato farmers. Quiet, kind, suspicious of strangers, but not of listeners. You don't try to teach. You just help. You dig beside them. Wash the earth from purple-skinned roots. Learn that each type of potato has a name. Use a story. One kind is for grief. Another for celebration. Some aren't eaten, they're offered. The children call you Brother Thread. You're not sure who started it, but it sticks. One evening, the oldest woman in the village places a basket in your lap. Inside, a small quipu, rough, uneven, made with plant fiber and dyed with berry juice. Not official, not for records, but full of emotion. You run your fingers across it and look at her. She says, "It's our village song. We can't always remember the tune." So we nodded the feelings. You breathe. Because suddenly you understand something new. Not all memory is meant to be decoded. Some is meant to be held. The next morning, she asks if you'd help her re-knot it, just to keep it strong. You do, not by correcting, just by anchoring. The village holds a quiet gathering that night, a celebration of nothing in particular, just being alive together with enough chicha and enough sky. They light small fires in a ring. You sit beside the elder woman. She leans in and says, "Your empire ties what we live, but sometimes we live what's already been tied." You're not sure if she means fate or just memory coming full circle. You don't ask. You listen. The stars come out slowly, one knot at a time. You stay longer than you planned. It's easy to lose time in a place where no one counts it. The village doesn't measure days in numbers. They measure them in tasks completed, rains, endured meals shared. You learn to tell the time by smoke, how it rises from the cooking huts in the morning, how it glows orange at dusk, how it curls lazily when it's too hot to do anything. You start helping with the smokehouse. It's where they dry meat, llama, guinea pig, the occasional rabbit. The process is meticulous, almost sacred. Not because of religion, because of respect. They believe food remembers you, how you treat it, how you speak around it, whether you thank it or just take it. So you thank it every time. One day, a boy drops a bundle of kindling and curses under his breath. His grandmother slaps the smokehouse wall 3 times. "Now it knows you're angry," she says. The boy blushes, apologizes to the meat. You nearly laugh, but then you don't, because part of you believes it too. You start to wonder how much of what we call superstition is actually memory wearing a mask. You begin keeping a small cord tied to your waist. Not official, not for the empire, just for yourself. Every night, you add a tiny knot for the birds that sang too early, for the boy who taught you to skin a rabbit with more kindness than most people use to tie shoes, for the fire that refused to start until you sang to it. You realize the most sacred things are often the smallest, like the woman who leaves a handful of maize on a rock each morning, or the man who smooths the earth after planting, whispering sleep well. No one tells you to do these things, but you start doing them anyway, because belonging is a rhythm, not a declaration. One evening, a storm rolls in fast and low and growling. The villagers move quickly, securing huts, calling children covering the smokehouse with thick hides. You help, not because they ask, because your hands already know what to do. The storm passes in an hour. The village sings afterward, not loudly, not cheerfully, just a low hum of relief and thank you. You sit by the fire with a cup of warm chuño soup and realize you're not a guest anymore. You're a thread, and they've woven you in. You wake one morning to silence. No roosters, no grinding stones, just the sound of waiting. Something has changed. At first, you think it's the weather, maybe another storm. But the sky is clear, and then you see it. A messenger, wrapped in royal colors, dust covered, horse gone, eyes tight. He speaks quietly to the elder woman. She nods once, then turns to the others. The emperor is ill. The words fall heavy, not because anyone here knows him personally, but because the emperor is the breath of the center. And when that breath falters, even distant hills feel it. The villagers gather at the central hearth, not to panic, to tie. Each family brings out a cord, some old, some freshly made. Together, they knot. Not for death, not yet, but for strength. You're asked to contribute. At first, you hesitate. Who are you? To offer a thread for a man you've never met. But then, the elder woman presses a soft blue string into your hand. He doesn't need your loyalty, she says. He needs your memory. You knot your string. 3 loops, 1 tight twist, a pause, a second knot looser for possibility. That night, no one sings. But no one weeps either. They just keep the fire burning longer, as if warmth might reach the capital. In the days that follow, life continues, but softer. Work slows, voices lower. Children are hushed before they get loud. And still, the emperor lives. One morning, news arrives. He is recovering. No fanfare. Just a whispered yes, passed from mouth to ear, like a fragile thread. That evening, they untie one of the knots on the blue cord, not to erase it, to honor the change. And you realize something you never quite understood until now. In this empire, every knot is alive. It can grow. It can loosen. It can be revisited, reread, refelt. You walk to the elder and ask if you can stay a little longer. She smiles. We already assumed you would. And for the first time you laugh, fully, freely. Because somehow, this far from Cusco, far from temples and golden discs, you found the most sacred center of all, a hearth, a thread, a place that remembers you even before you arrive. You begin teaching, not in a school, not with scrolls or syllables or raised hands, with knots. It starts when one of the children, Lita, the bold one, sits beside you with a frayed cord and says, "Teach me the kind that speaks." You ask what she means. She says, "The knots that tell you what's happened when no one's around to say it." You nod. Because you understand exactly. You start simple colors, spacing how tight means urgency, how loops can signal joy or questions. She listens like it's music. Soon, others join. You don't call it a class, but every afternoon, after work is done, a little group forms at the shaded corner near the smokehouse. Small hands with big curiosity. You give them practice chords and let them create their own messages. Some are hilarious long tales about goats stealing chicha. Some are sad, silent knots for lost grandmothers. Some are so beautiful they hurt chords that hold dreams too fragile to speak aloud. You don't correct them. You ask questions, and that's enough, because in this kind of remembering, there is no wrong, only unfolding. The children begin tying cords to trees, to fences, to doorposts, messages for whoever passes by. One knot means food here. Another means don't disturb naps happening. The adults shake their heads but smile. And then one day, someone adds a knot to your door, just a small one, soft green. You untie it, and inside a single hair braid. You ask no one about it. You simply retie it this time with a yellow thread beside it. 2 days later, a third knot appears, then another. Suddenly, your doorway becomes a dialogue, a silent, beautiful, growing conversation made only of thread and care. The children notice. They start calling it the listening wall. You laugh. But it's true. It listens. One evening, Lita brings you a long cord. Not for teaching, for reading. She says it's from her uncle. He left for the city seasons ago. She never heard back, but one of the messengers passed through and handed her this. You lay it out on the table, smoothing it with care, and together you read. He's alive. He's working with stonemasons. He misses the smell of earth. He sends a knot for her birthday, 3 loops, like the number of times he used to swing her around. She cries, and then hugs you. And you think this is what all the journeys were for. Not gold, not titles, but moments like this. Knots that reach across miles and years to say, I'm still here. I remember you. And suddenly, so do you. You prepare to leave. Again. But this time, it's not escape. It's offering. A nearby village has asked for help. A landslide wiped out their trail markers, and their traders have stopped coming. The elders there used to maintain a small quipu record, but it was lost in the mud. They need someone to help them remember, and your name was the one whispered first. No speeches, just your favorite soup. Warm maize cakes. Lita braids your pouch strap 3 times for luck. The elder woman presses a stone into your palm. Flat, round. A spiral carved faintly into one side. Not a gift, she says. A reminder. You ask of what she smiles. That you carry circles, not lines. You nod, because you felt it too. You leave at dawn. The path winds down the valley, then cuts through thickets, and across a rope bridge that hums when the wind is right. Along the way, you pass places your feet already know. A bend where you once saw a puma in the mist, a slope where you learned to fall without bruising pride. A boulder where a child once drew a sun with charcoal just because the real one was late that morning. At each, you pause. You don't cry, but something inside you softens. The next village greets you with wary eyes and firm handshakes. They've heard of the thread teller. They expected someone older. You smile. We're all old somewhere. They laugh. And that's enough. You begin with questions. Not what do you want to record, but what do you never want to forget? The answers surprise you. A certain kind of cloud before a good harvest. The exact weight of a newborn's first cry. The sound the river makes right before flooding. You nod, and you teach. Not by lecturing, by listening. Each day you walk the slopes with them, carrying fresh cord and dyed fibers. You tie stories together, not as a historian, but as a fellow human, trying not to let beauty slip through the cracks of forgetting. One boy asks if the emperor will ever visit. You say he already has. How? He lives in the way you knot this loop, in the way you share your maze, in the way your village breathes together. The boy looks confused, but also proud. A few weeks and a messenger passes through bearing news from Cuzco. You don't rush to open it. You finish tying a birth knot for a new baby, adjusting the twist to reflect a sunny day and her mother's strong heart. Only then do you read it. It's from the master interpreter. He writes simply, "Your knots have reached us, the quiet kind, the kind that last. Return if you wish, or continue walking. The story grows wherever you are." You fold the letter and tuck it into your pouch beside the stone spiral. Later that night, as the village sleeps, you sit under a tree and begin a new quipu. The cord is dark and soft, dyed with bark. You tie the first knot, tightly presents, then a loose one, openings, then a third, paths unmarked but walked anyway. You don't know where you'll go next, but your hands already trust the thread. And the world, you realize, is not made of empires. It's made of people, of knots, of breath, of quiet things that hold fast even in storms. And you soft-footed and sun-dusted walk on, with memory braided into your every step. Night settles like a quilt across the sky. You lie down, not in a royal chamber, not beneath temple stone, but on woven blankets, beside a gentle fire, listening to the soft crackle of wood and the even softer rustle of your own breath. Your fingers brush against the edge of your pouch. Inside, threads sleep beside one another, some rough, some delicate, some still carrying the faint scent of river water or wood smoke or maize, and all of them yours. Or maybe not yours anymore. Maybe they belong to the people who tied them with you. Maybe they belong to the wind that wrapped around your ankles while you walked. Maybe they belong to the earth itself, which has always remembered more than it lets on. You close your eyes, not to forget, but to let memory settle. It has followed you across peaks and valleys, through firelight and festivals, into sweat lodges and silence. It has whispered to you in threads and knots, in roasted potatoes and wet sandals, in songs sung by people who never wrote a single word. And now, as you drift into sleep, it says one last thing. You were here. You remembered. You mattered. That's the story. For tonight, may your dreams be filled with wonder and peace.